Rightio. Watch party time. It's been a while since we've done these, about 11 months to be precise. And I am keen. Rightio, we might as well fire up some Path of Exile 1 while we're waiting. And yeah. Oh, how's everyone going this morning so far? We're about 51 minutes away from the live reveal, so we're just going to smash a bit of PoE1 and get the rust off. What? What? A PoE2, PoE1 server's down. That is wild. Thanks for the sub, man. Fair enough, man. Yeah, I hope so too, man. I'm really banking on this. This is bizarre, though. Unexpected disconnection. Oh, are they patching PoE2? Let's just load up PoE2. Let's see what happens. Ah, they are doing an update. That makes a lot more. Oh, they're okay. Fair enough. Man, let's hope so. Let's really hope so. I am G'd up. They haven't started the patch for PoE2 yet. Hey Zachus, how's it going, dude? We had to farm this up in. That would make a lot of sense. I think that's the rumor mill that I've sort of been hearing as well. It's actually a pretty cool patch for PoE2. Basically a full buff across the board. I am super keen for PoE1 though at this stage because yeah, it's just like a total overhaul of everything. But yeah, who knows what the what's going to come out in the reveal. Yeah, I'm hoping so too, man. Problem with that is I haven't done the usual amount of build planning that I do, so I got to go for my button and get it done. Hey, Slapmans. The reveal's in 47 minutes. So we're very, very short off it. Man, I just want to be able to play chain hook totems. Since I can't play PoE 1, I'm just going to have to play PoE 2. Yeah, I'd say so. Like, that would make sense. And, like, we also get all the new uniques, like Whispering Ice and everything's getting added to the game. Yeah, that's it. I'm just going to blast some maps. Might as well while we wait. Hoping with the new uniques that are getting added to the game, though, it just sort of gives us a lot more options. So I feel like the game is a little bit limiting right now for PoE 2. That being said, I'm going to be absolutely smashing PoE 1. And my Sunder build is already coming together. The build's not too bad, actually. Yeah, man, we're back. We're back on that point. Reinstallation time and PoE 1. Yeah, like as I've been playing through PoE 1, to be honest with you, like it just candidly feels like a better game. Like, yeah, combat feels way better, especially playing melee. It's always a 50-50, man. They may not have finalized stuff too, which is usually the case, but then, like, that's assuming that they're approaching this the same as how they've done in previous, like, the last few previous patches. I sort of hope, like, the patch notes take another day because I've got to go to work all day. I couldn't get the day off or anything like that, so, and I'm just too busy at the moment, but, because, yeah, that'd give me a lot more time on the weekend to work through build curations and stuff like that, but I got a good idea about builds that would be pretty decent. Like, I think Hex Blast is going to still be a thing. Rain of Arrows, Lightning Strike is still probably going to be really powerful. Obviously, I'm going to be rolling out with a Sunder Chieftain. Like, yeah. Obviously, I'm going to be going Delve. Pretty much to go to. So we'll be doing a bunch of new videos on Delve and a bit of rehash series. Yeah, Trickster should be powerful, but hopefully we get like Assassin rework. That wouldn't be bad. So like the whole Ascendancy being totally overhauled wouldn't be a bad idea. But you'll probably go hard for like 2 months and then sort of switch between PoE 1 and 2, and yeah. Man. In PoE 2, a lot better. This advertising is really bad. So actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea now. PoE.ninja. While we're sort of waiting. Oh, we got patch update. We might have a look at some of the builds we could play. Steam. Oh yeah. They do that caching of the inventory in the league. But yeah. So like it's freaking wild where we're at with PoE 1. So builds, I think like Hex Blast would be good. If we go back to like league start, say we go back and do the first week of the previous league, it gives a bit of an indicator of strong builds. So Sunder, obviously not gonna copy Shitstone Steve. I think Rain of Arrows is always a good league starter as well, which is usually Fuzzy Duxy. The other one is Frostblades, and that'll be Zish. We just like to put him in curations. Hey DJ, how's it going, dude? Yeah. Delver's good profit. Like if you're farming like Crystal Kings and stuff like that, that's all pretty profitable at the end of the day. Man, for me it's 5:20 in the morning. Thanks for the sub, Paulie. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, dude. Yep. I think I got like maybe 4 hours sleep, something like that, tops. Afternoon. Yeah, there you go. So I don't really recommend explosive arrow builds because I don't think they're that good. I think they really like require stupid amounts of investment. You can see Hex Blast is just absolutely wild. I'm gonna say Poisonous Concoction would actually be another good league starter. So it usually works pretty well. 8:20 p.m. Yeah, man. You gotta be committed. That's how I always feel about it. I love these league start mornings. I've streamed every single Path of Exile league start announcement for years now. It's just crazy. Yeah, Hex Blast would be good in S7. One of the good ways to like get an idea of what would work easily enough, right? If you go back to the previous league, so the way that I established my Sunder build, cheers, man. Yeah, I can't see myself not doing this every league. For the rest of, I just like PoE. I think it's a great game. Um, so you could do like this is a week one. This is week one. So like this gives it a few days to sort of tune up. But basically, these are all the sorts of builds that you could do on a league start scenario. Like it's crazy people getting to level 100. So you could go like the first 3 days of SSF would be a good metric to go by. So like if you're getting a build working after 3 days, you're doing pretty well. So like Sunder's a pretty good viable option because it's got good scalability, and I have a really good POB. I have a really good SSF POB actually, and that's what I'm putting together as a league start. Obviously people are going to go Power Siphon. I'm not a big fan. I think Earth Shatter as well is really powerful. So what I'll do is I'll source creators and builds for these. Obviously I'm working on my own Sunder Chieftain. Shield Crush is going to work. Bone Shatter is going to work. With a Ice Nova of Frostbolts, but they may patch that out. I'm not too sure. I don't usually recommend Ball Lightning. Like, that EHP is pretty weak. Bone Shatter EHP is deceptive because the damage scaling and the recovery and the recoup and all the rest of it. Hey Bart, how's it going, dude? Yeah, exactly. That's why. So I've seen people putting out build lists before patch notes, and from experience, that's usually a no-no. Like, you don't want to be doing that crap. It's just not. You just don't know what they're going to change. I learnt my lessons over the years. Yeah, dude, 100%. I still got a builds list to put together for get off my thing, you Google ads. I still got a builds list to put together for PoE 2 as well, so I'm going to work on that on the weekend. But yeah, like Bone Shatter is pretty much a guaranteed. Like, and I think I've got league starter guides on Bone Shatter even recently. So yeah, Bone Shatter is going to be a goer. Super tanky because you can overcap reses really easily, and also you get a free Fist of War, so you get a free 7 link with it. So it's, yeah, that's main reason. Plus huge amounts of life regeneration. The tree that I looked at is 3,000 depth reached, which was pretty wild, so yeah. Earthquake will never work. Actually, that would be a bleed. Pardon me. Oh, Jesus. That'd be a bleed EQ. Yeah, the Jack. I wouldn't really recommend that. It's got a lot of life, but yeah, I can't see that being that great. Yeah, man. Yeah, league start mornings, early start. We got Lacerate, Power Siphon. Yeah. Lightning Strike is gonna always be a viable, but like, yeah. Wave of Conviction. Actually, yeah, Wave of Conviction, Ignite would work. I need to update a few guides as well. Let's see, Frostblades will work. So this is like within the first 2 days. Does someone actually get a Glacial Hammer build working? That can actually be pretty, yeah, with Frost Breath. Really? That's actually decent. Well, it's sort of decent. It's not that great. It's got good life. That's surprisingly not bad. What did it scale that up to? That survived the entire... I think that survived the entire league run. No, character no longer not found. So we go Time Machine day 5. No worries, man. You have a good one. So, where are we doing? A Sunder Guide. SSF is where it's at if you're looking for builds that will work early on. There was also... Oh, what was it? Can't remember what it was called. The Mirror Arrow build. Anyway. We just got to blow off the rust for PoE 1. So we've obviously got Lightning Strike. So that patch went through for PoE 1 yet? Yeah, it has. Never recommend like volcanic fissure builds early on because they're just like not very tanky. So actually, he's at 57,000 armor, but he's 45k EHP. That is still quite powerful. But is he like doing it? That's a wild build, but it's DPS. Probably not that good. Could be good. $30 minutes. Almost there. I don't know how I feel about that build. I feel like if you weren't hitting a lot, it's not really that powerful. What was in the rack up for Trade League? Great Houses of Trathus. Oh. Those of the great houses shall answer any bloody wager issued. The victor may choose one of 3 fates for those bested to seize a trinket, bind them in employ, or decree banishment. Only the challenger risks death's embrace. All under the great houses of Kecha, Syaxin, Badia, and Azada shall uphold this code. For forfeit their standing in the death trades. We, the leaders of the houses of Trathus, bind this article to the Trathan Code. On this, the 4th mensis of Kurathan's primacy. Sealed in blood and oath. This looks like a bloody, like a guild system. Well, that's what it appears to be, like a guild system, which could be really cool. Like similar to like Last Epoch sort of stuff. That could actually be awesome. You've got to use a corrupted breach ring. Corrupted breach portal. So that's like the portal that releases like all the enemies that come at you or whatever in the breach, and then basically then you have to rely on your ascendancy's fire explode popping, and that's basically how you handle like big bosses and stuff like that. There's also the ring that you can get as well that'll allow you to do that. Or yeah, there's a unique ring that they put in when they put Syndicate and not Syndicate. When they put the Settlers expansion into the game too, that lets you really pop off with heaps of damage. Yeah, you can, yeah. You basically just want to go all damage. Overcharge isn't going to do anything for you, I don't think. It's been a little while since I played that build, but that's more or less the gist. Yeah. Fulcrum probably would help, yeah, with the self ignite and perpetual self ignite. Alright, so we've got day 5 trade league, we go day 3 trade league. What do we have? Yeah, that's when it was super strong. When everyone was playing it as a playing it as a loot farmer. So we got explosive trap. That one's easy. That would be fearless dumb 0. So he does really good explosive trap builds. Anime Princess will be Spark. I don't think they're going to nerf anywhere near where we might expect they'll nerf, and the reason for that is just the amount of damage that they cause to the community over like not patching the game for like 11 months straight. That just didn't. That if they came out with like a list of nerfs now, they'd have no chance in hoping hell they would get absolutely slaughtered by the community. So they really can't take that approach to it. I reckon we may see some new skills added to the game, which would be really nice. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, they sort of need to buff the defensive layers for casters, because when they nerfed armor or determination when they did settlers, they really hurt casters as an overall. Like if you were playing like Aegis Aurora, your defense layers just dropped right down and it just became not as viable. Yeah, well, if you're doing like Poison Spark, you do or like Chaos Spark, you do Voltaxic Rift or something like that. Yeah, Inquisitor's just weak now. Cheers, man. Appreciate it, Dylan. Yeah, we've sort of seen a bit of a drop off. I haven't been streaming as much and stuff like that either, so I just was working quite a lot. So yeah, we're going to be getting back to basics and delving and all the rest of it. With PoE 1 and PoE 2 sort of coming into the fray a bit more, like there's a bit more like every 2 months, which was always the plan. So yeah, hopefully the rocky periods are starting to get behind us a little bit. Yeah, exactly. The determination nerfs and the grace nerfs just were egregious at the end of the day. How are we looking? 22 minutes we've got. So I haven't got that much time before we actually find out what's going on. So what else have we got? I wouldn't be recommending Penance Brand of Dissipation. Hex Blast is that version of Hex Blast I wouldn't even recommend because the EHP is just way too low. High DPS, but if you get tapped once, you're going to get rolled. I never recommend totem builds on League Start either. Like, there was a few leagues ago where everyone was going like Hierophant, and yeah, no, that wasn't a good idea. A lot of people got rolled. I've never seen a build actually use Garb of the Ephemeral. It's like way too many uniques in that build. Yeah, exactly. It's just designed to nuke shit. Like the damage stats on that is like 73 mil. Yeah. Couldn't yeah. Like there's a happy medium where you stack a lot more evasion on that instead of just going absolutely ham. But yeah, like that makes sense that it'd be like a glass cannon sort of setup. Because yeah, that's basically running full glass cannon. It's the definition of glass cannon. And Asenats as well. Fingers crossed, like, we get new skills, we're going to start theory crafting some new builds. RF. No one's really playing RF anymore. I'm really holding out for them to buff up, like, RF. Bring mouse button 1 back into the game. Like, add, zero cast time to Vortex again. So we can play Vortex builds. That'd be really nice. Or at least, like, allow Vortex to work with automation. Like, but even then, like, that's not a good setup anyway, because it doesn't really work. But some revisions back to early iterations of patches wouldn't be bad. So week 1. So obviously you had, like, Molten Striker Zenith was highly popular. Flicker Strike, yeah, it's Flicker Strike. Hey, Holy Man. What else we got? Wouldn't recommend that Ground Slam setup. Never gonna ever say play Tornado Shot on League Start scenario. It's too tedious. That's interesting though. 30 mil but 4k EHP. So this would be like a Sanctum runner scenario too. That's a pretty wild amulet to have that early on, especially with a Mage Blood too. That's an insane helm early on. +4 to skills. It's insane deeps. Lacerate Hemorrhage, 152k, but it's inflated. Yeah, exactly. That's it, man. We definitely need some new skills. And not like just like the trends or alt gem skills, like proper new skills would be really nice. Like, how 153k is not that much EHP considering he's got Mage Blood. It's not that good, but he'd have like Lucky Chance block set up on that too. Alright. Hey, landlord. Oh yeah, you're back from retirement. I think that's going to be the case. I think the last 11 months have been pretty rough for the channel and all the PoE1 players. Yeah, man, we're going to be back to delve and get back to basics. Get back to work, farming Crystal Kings and doing Crystal King farming streams and stuff like that. Oh, hardcore builds are out there. Hardcore SSF. Okay. Thanks for the prime, Thelius. Hey, Nerful. Yeah, I'm already seeing like the creator list, like, you know, it definitely has been a pretty big change in the streaming, like, yeah, streamers, and the market is definitely 10,000 times more competitive for PoE1. But I think what the outcome will be is like you'll have a heap of streamers that'll try PoE1 and just absolutely screw up, and I wouldn't be surprised at that. But either way, it's good for the game overall. Oh yeah, that's PoE's going crazy. Thanks, Nerful. Appreciate it, dude. We haven't done one of these mornings in nearly a year, which is wild to think. Like, it's been nearly 12 months since we've actually done a league start for PoE1. And to be honest with you, after playing PoE1 for the last few nights, I just far more enjoy the feel of PoE1 than PoE2. At least in the current state of the game. I feel like PoE2 is just, it is tedious compared to PoE1. PoE1 just feels like fun. Yeah, that's it. What are we looking at? 13.54 minutes. We're almost there. Yeah, I think PoE2, like, it's not a bad game, but it's just got a very long way to go. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, and that's the thing that PoE1 like really like the harshest thing for new players coming into PoE1 is going to be game knowledge. And like having been an avid PoE1 player, like PoE2, like the crazy thing about PoE2 is like getting your build online once you get to endgame, as long as you've got a clear idea, is very easy. Like it you can literally do it in like one afternoon. You can level up and whatever really smoothly. But like PoE1 requires a lot more intricate tinkering with the actual build and mechanics. And I actually find it's a lot more complex to craft and get your character geared up to where it needs to be in PoE 1 than it is in PoE 2. And I sort of like that level of complexity that comes with it because you actually have to problem solve. I feel like PoE 2, once you know mechanically how the build should work, it's just, it feels very trivial, or it's just because the end game is so easy to cheese your way through now. Builds just don't, yeah, exactly. Like when you put effort into a build in PoE 1, it feels satisfying. In PoE 2, it's just like, okay, cool, it works. And that could be because the absence of like a very well scoped out end game. Builds aren't near as complex. Yeah, I feel like even mechanically down in PoE 1, like for example, like the Sunder build, like I've got to click more buttons on my Sunder build when I get it together than what I have to click for PoE 2, which is crazy. Like that just shouldn't be the case. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It's not like I gotta intricately balance my gear, and then we've got to like try and respec out to like min max in like an extra few attribute points, or I want more speed, or I want more function for this particular mechanic. And I feel like that's where PoE 2's identity really drops off in the end game because there's no specialization. And I feel like that's the thing that makes part of it. Like you're going to do a build for like Delve, you're going to do a build for Ritual, you're going to do a build for like, you know, Blight or whatever. And I think that's actually the thing that makes PoE 1 so much more fun because like you're going to play multiple builds for various different purposes. I think doing Jack of all trades is not great. Hey, Gift, how's it going, man? Yeah, I just don't know how I feel about Jack of all trades builds and that ethos. Like it's cool, but like yeah, exactly. And the build diversity comes from a driving requirement to play different builds for different situations. Yeah, exactly. You just need to know how to get your build online and working and whatnot. Like if you can get to like mid end game, and that's like, you know, T6 to 10 maps, then yeah, you can scale up from there as long as the skill can scale up. Thanks for the resubs, apps. Yeah, I feel like PoE 1 is just infinitely more replayable as well. Like that's another big issue. But like that's not to say PoE 2 will get there eventually. Like it took the best part of a decade for PoE 1 to get to where it is now. But I just feel like breadth of content, quality of content, PoE 1 just easily wins. I don't think PoE 2 is going to catch that level, catch up to that level anytime soon. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. They feel unique. That's true. That's not an untrue comment. But the problem with PoE 2 is like, what's its direction when it does get to the point when it's getting close to completion? Yeah, exactly. And this is actually one thing, like, because of the wind ups on a lot of the melee skills in PoE 1 at this point, melee in PoE 2 currently just feels better. Like, playing a Sunder build in PoE 1, like, it feels powerful and it's fun. Yeah, I feel like where we go with this is PoE 2 is probably going to be more like the Diablo version of Path of Exile. It's just like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think it's going to catch up with the complexity. Yeah. I feel like if they drop the ball on PoE 1, that would be it for them. I just don't think PoE 2 on its own merit could carry for in the long term with that, like without like half a decade under the belt for that game. I feel like it would be a struggle for GGG. Which PoE tweet, man? There's I just saw one just before. I know they put out another one too. Are you talking about the houses of Trathis? This one? Yeah, I reckon it's going to be like a guild system or a faction system. So this will be like Last Epoch basically. So you got to do mechanics to be able to build out the factions. Look, it could get there. Yeah, I feel like there's a potential for PoE 2 to have every merit to be carried and have a much more robust like experience in it. But as it stands right now, the oversimplification of skills, the way that skills are locked to weapons, there's a lot of things about it that just don't lend it to be as flexible as what PoE 1 is. But we'll see what happens either way. I'm still having fun, still playing both games, still doing builds for both games. There's still, is what it is. I reckon we will. I reckon it'll be a reputation system. And like that's in Grim Dawn, it's in Last Epoch, it's in a lot of games where you have like faction reputation or faction points and stuff like that. I reckon that's what this is basically saying it is. I reckon this is going to be a faction system. Man, I'm looking forward to Templar. I think it's going to be a faction system. That's what my take on it. I think they may be thrown back to like synthesis because it's given off like massive synthesis vibes, but I think it's going to be more so like a faction system. Because we don't really have any other hints, do we? Empyrean's bingo card. I reckon Zana will be back. That's 100% going to happen. Delve rework would be nice, but like a good delve rework, not a bad delve rework. Like, don't screw up a mechanic that works ultimately, right? Gold buffs I don't really care about. King's March looks like it's probably going to be core. I think we're going to be getting back to the standard every 4-month league. Death recap will never happen. They said that's never going to happen. Trade QOL, they added trade updates last league. I can't see that happening. New bases, maybe. I'm still not sure. WASD won't happen until they finish the rigging in Path of Exile 2, or they finish all the character classes, so they said that's not going to happen anytime soon. Scarabs, I'd like to see them compress so there's less Scarabs. I think it's stupid. Idle system, I don't think is going to happen. Rarity, I don't think is going to change, because I think it's in a good place anyway. Tota may return, but Tota may return as part of the faction system, which would be pretty cool. Sanctum may get a rework based on Trials of Sekma. I think that might actually be a viable like outcome. But then again, like, I think Sanctum was pretty good anyway. Exile Con they said wasn't going to happen this year, and if they were going to do an Exile Con, they would have announced that last year. So I can't see that happening. T17 mod rework. They already reworked the T17 mods when they did 3.25. That's alright, man. I don't mind. I didn't really sleep. Oh, 2 minutes. We're almost there. Log straight in the hideout would be fantastic. I would actually say that's probably going to happen. Complete Atlas overhaul could also happen too. I feel like this has to be like, this was same time last year more or less, so this has to be like a big patch. Like this has got to be a monolithic patch. Like we got to see some major stuff. I can't ever see that happening. I feel like that's too complicated for what they would want to implement. New pinnacle bosses could be a thing too. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, I know. The problem is, like, they're going to do the PoE 2 update, but I'm very much going to be doing league testing for PoE 1, so, because it's league start season. We got to get some shit together, but thanks for the resub, Paraf. So the plan is this weekend I'm going to get a, oh shit. Here we go. 40 seconds. Waited a whole year for this. Thanks for the follow, Cram. Yeah, exactly. Sunder all day, that's it. We're going OG Sunder.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games, and today we're here to showcase a new expansion for PoE 1. It's certainly been too long since we had one of these. Now, we had some struggles as a studio for a little while there, but we've got our shit together and we're back in action now. Path of Exile Secrets of the Atlas is coming out 1 week from now on the 13th of June, and we're committing right now to a 4-month cycle for both PoE 1 and 2.
Fix that.
That means the next PoE 2 League will be in August, and the next PoE 1 League after that will be in October. Twitch drops are enabled on today's livestream, so you'll be able to claim your Skull of Undeath helmet skin by following the instructions below. This Skull of Undeath will track and show your total number of kills, deaths, and your KDR.
Hell yeah.
Just because Path of Exile isn't a first-person shooter doesn't mean this isn't important. Proudly or shamefully, link it to your friends or in global chat to show it off. And with that, let's get to why you're here. Secrets of the Atlas.
You can search 1,000 worlds and still never truly discover who you are. Trust me. I should know. But now, I seek something more tangible. Someone I care for, trapped within the Atlas.
Zana!
Reliving memories, made real.
What have you done?
Made grotesque. Made foul.
Whoa.
These manifestations
Pinnacles.
must be destroyed. Their threads must be eradicated. I must have answers. We must find the originator. We must save my sister.
Her power is an illusion.
Yes! You pinnacles.
Come, child, drink deep the waters of life.
You're either a client or a target.
Oh my god! Mercenaries!
Your sanity is not promised to you here.
That looks wild.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. As you just saw from the trailer, there's a lot to show you. Today, we will take you on a deep dive into the new Path of Exile Secrets of the Atlas endgame update. Then, we'll explore the new Challenge League, the Mercenaries of Wraeclast. After that, we'll cover the integration of gold into PoE 1
It's gonna be a good league.
and how we're bringing Settlers of Kalgur into the core game. Finally, we have a much-awaited upgrade to Betrayal League and a set of quality of life improvements. Then, we'll wrap up by discussing our Boss Kill race event, showing you our new supporter packs, and ending with a live Q&A session, where Ziggy D will ask Jonathan and I your questions from Twitch chat. In Path of Exile Secrets of the Atlas, strange rifts have begun to appear across the Atlas. Zana has returned, and appears to be trapped within. Partway through the endgame, you will meet Egan, an intelligent man of mysterious heritage. These tears in reality he has discovered are actually threads of memory, distorted and made real by the Atlas. Egan is able to create a link to these memory threads and open portals to them. Working with Egan, you must step through and find Zana, or whatever remains of her.
Damn.
Okay, so that's the story background, but how does this expansion actually work? In the Secrets of the Atlas, the pursuit of Zana with Egon is a new storyline that is introduced in high-tier maps. Upon meeting Egan and discovering the tier, he will then transfer it to your map device and reveal this on your atlas, a thread of memories.
This is old school.
In order to now access each map on the thread, you simply need to talk to Egan when you're ready, and he'll open the areas in sequence. These areas can be fully influenced by your atlas tree, scarabs, fragments, and everything of the sort.
It's gonna be wild.
As you work
league.
your way along the thread, you will discover that these maps have manifested dangerous threats, influenced by the memories of Zana herself. Monsters here are imbued with memory petals. Defeat them to absorb this power, which can be unleashed as a special ability during combat. Different maps on the thread have different abilities, and these abilities appear on an additional mini skill bar next to your regular skills. For example, Memory of Disbelief will cause all affected monsters to stop dropping equipment items, meaning they can now only drop more valuable items, like currency and maps.
That's pretty good.
Memory of Panic will make all affected monsters revive immediately after death, which means you can get twice as much experience and drops from them. And Memory of Impatience will cause all surrounding enemies to give you their souls, temporarily increasing your power. As you progress further into the thread of memories, the maps can have more than one memory, and thus you can have more than one powerful ability. As you gather memory petals, you can use these powers together. Each skill costs its own amount of memory petals. So using the examples above, you can first use Memory of Impatience to become way more powerful, then use Memory of Panic to prepare them to revive when they are slain, then use Memory of Disbelief to cause them to drop better, more valuable items. Finally, obliterate them all. The Memory of Panic will kick in, causing them to revive, and then wipe them out again, allowing you to get all the experience and enhanced drops twice.
It's a loot explosion mechanic.
There are many combinations of these powers, so you'll have to carefully consider how they best work together. That's not the only extra layer of content juicing these maps offer. As you defeat the boss of each map along the thread, you are presented with an altar. This altar will apply a modifier to all following maps in the thread,
That's pretty
and
good.
these will stack as you go. So the deeper you delve into a memory, the more mods you will have. This combined with the special abilities, will allow for some of the most juice maps ever run in Path of Exile.
This is going to be insane.
Let's take a look at some of the altar mods. You are always presented with 2 choices and must pick one. This mod, for example, will cause some rare monsters to be possessed by tormented spirits, where this mod makes Kerak modifiers free to craft. Both of these apply to all subsequent maps in the thread. The final map in each thread is a true challenge, with all the altar mods applying to it and guarded by a powerful boss. Each of these bosses are familiar, but dreamlike, drawn from Zana's memories and warped by the Atlas into something very different and terrifying. In this map, you will fight the pinnacle boss, Cirrus. Fueled by Zana's affectionate memories of him, his enhanced abilities can prove to be a unique challenge. If you manage to defeat Cirrus, or one of the other warped memory bosses, they will drop a map fragment, which Egan can use to delve deeper into the memory tears. With these, you can access a set of 3 new pinnacle bosses.
Freaking awesome.
In this arena, the Moment of Reverence, Zana is reliving a memory of her father, Valdo, giving a passionate speech in Oriath. The Atlas distorts this memory of her father as a powerful, influential man and manifests those emotions into a twisted nightmare, the incarnation of dread. Another memory created is the incarnation of neglect and the incarnation of fear. Good luck, Exiles.
I feel like this is going to be
Of
awesome.
course, if you are brave and strong enough to defeat them, each of these new pinnacle
drop?
bosses have new unique items befitting them.
Oh.
If
What do we
you
got?
slay the incarnation of fear, you might be lucky enough to find the Star Caller unique abyssal axe.
So a Soraka
We're
item.
gonna show this one because it's straight up badass.
Soraka.
The Starcaller axe is a weapon that can harness the power of the stars themselves to
That's
deal
awesome.
immense damage. What makes it shine, however, is that on melee crit, it casts Starfall, a new skill. With the right build, you can carpet entire areas and wipe out screens of enemies as you rain down the elements upon them.
So cool. I like
Another
that.
item you may find, and this one is my favorite, is the Wine of the Prophet unique flask.
Random divination.
It consumes a lot of charges, but every time you use it, you draw a random divination card. This card appears above you and correlates to a powerful buff.
That's pretty cool.
If you draw the Escape card, you'll gain increased movement speed. Or maybe you'll draw the Doctor, which will cause you to gain the modifiers of slain rares you kill. Effectively, you can think of this unique
That's
as being
awesome.
many other uniques all in one.
That's
There are
friggin-
many
that's up
cards
there.
to draw, each with varying degrees of power to grant. Okay, but let's get back to the Atlas. After defeating all 3 new pinnacle bosses, you'll be able to find new memory-influenced Tier 16 maps. These maps come with the previously mentioned special abilities and monsters infused with memory petals, but can also roll the same modifiers typically found on Tier 17 maps, making them far more rewarding. With all these new memory maps comes a new item mechanic. Items in these maps can drop with memory strands, and will have a random amount, up to 100.
What does that mean?
This does a few things. When you identify the item, it will increase the tiers of modifiers your item has.
Really?
Generally speaking, the more memory strands, the better the item will be.
Oh, that's pretty good actually.
On top of this, whenever you're crafting that item using currency orbs to replace or add modifiers, such as alterations,
Be a higher
chaos,
roll.
and so forth, it will consume some memory strands to make the crafted mods more powerful.
So
The
it's
new
more
pinnacle
deterministic.
bosses also drop new crafting currencies, which can be used to manipulate the amount of
It's-
memory strands on an item.
It's deterministic.
The Orb of Remembrance will let you add memory strands to any normal equipment. So if you have your perfect base to craft on, and it doesn't already have memory strands, you can add some before crafting it. The Orb of Unraveling will consume all remaining memory strands on an item to randomly upgrade its mod tiers. This orb's effectiveness is based on the number of memory strands it consumes.
That's
The
actually
Orb of
really
Intention can be used on memory influence maps to reduce item drops, but improve the chance to find items with memory strands. In the process of adding these new currency items, we realized something was missing. The Shaper and the Elder did not have their own Exalted Orbs. This has now been rectified. Both bosses now have Exalted Orbs, which can add their influence to an item. Zana was there from the beginning, when the Shaper Pinnacle fight was first added. She helped defeat the Elder, and she was a critical part of the Conqueror's storyline. Now, with all 6 influence types having their own Exalted Orbs, the cycle is complete. It's almost as if we could now do some sort of new, epic, unique item to interact with them.
Mega Orb.
In other news, there of course has to be Atlas passive tree support for this new endgame content. Let's take a look at a few things we're adding.
New chase
The
unit.
Grasp the Past notable passive skill increases the chance for the amount of memory strands on items dropped in your memory influence maps to be lucky. This means it will roll the number of memory strands twice, keeping the highest value. By allocating traumatic experience, remembered kindness, or educated upbringing, you'll decrease the chance of finding memory threads that lead to specific bosses, meaning you'll have better chances at finding the memory threads you would like to run. This is especially useful if you want to target farm a specific boss because of its unique item drops. In sum, the secrets of the Atlas will have you questioning what is real as you attempt to free Zana from warped memories scattered throughout the Atlas. You'll fight new Guardian and Pinnacle bosses tormenting her, find crazy new Pinnacle uniques, combine and unleash memory petal empowered skills, juice maps to new heights, and craft powerful new items. While we were showing all the juicy rewards from the new endgame system, you might have noticed that a lot of gold was dropping. Let's talk about that. Gold was introduced during the Settlers of Kalgur expansion. It funded the development and operations of King's March, along with various new features such as the currency exchange, the black market, and the passive respec system with Faustus. Those features offered by Faustus will be here to stay, along with some of the other services King's March has to offer.
Shipping.
We'll get more into that later, but don't worry, King's March has already been completed. There will be no more town building.
Fantastic.
Like before, gold will be used for town services, but we're also adding a new way to use it in the upcoming league. It's time to talk about Mercenaries of Wraeclast.
I'm most excited about
In this league, you will meet veterans who have travelled all the way from the lawless cities of Wraeclast. They're ready to offer their sinister services, but not for free. You will encounter these mercenaries as you journey through Wraeclast, one in each area. They have their own personalities and come with different builds, skills, and items already equipped. After meeting them, as per the Trathan Code, they will challenge you to a duel, a test of strength and conviction.
I like that.
Before beginning the duel, you will be offered an overview of the mercenary you've encountered. Here, you can see the gear they have equipped, the skills they employ, and any support effects augmenting those skills. You must now make a choice. You can hire their services, take one of their items, or exile them. If you choose to hire them, for a gold cost, they will accompany you as a skilled combatant to assist you in fighting monsters throughout Wraeclast. Once you've decided, you can begin the duel. This is a great opportunity to test them, as you don't want to be out of pocket with a useless rookie. However, they're testing you too. They also don't want to be working for an amateur. So, what items might they be using?
Can they have auras?
Generally speaking, mercenary gear is more powerful than what you'd
They
normally
can
find
have
from
auras.
defeating monsters,
Atacama.
as they've been crafting their items too. They can also come equipped with unique items, those that would make sense for the skills they are using. There are even some new unique items that can only be obtained from defeating them. One such unique is Scornflux. These boots combine agility with the mastery of the arcane. While equipped, increases to cast speed from Arcane Surge also apply to movement speed.
Shit.
Which is worth noting is now 20% inherently from Arcane Surge, up from 10. They
Buffs.
also grant Arcane Surge when you use a movement skill. This allows for some speedy spellcasters. Sometimes you may meet particularly infamous Trathan mercenaries, bearing the name of their house. These mercenaries descend from the 4 major death trade families in Trathis. They are less common, but have far better items. And they are also the sole source of items with new, infamous modifiers, unseen before in Wraeclast, such as these gloves, which convert all of your minions' fire damage to chaos damage. Or this helmet, which causes nearby enemies to take more physical damage as you gain more fortification.
Oh.
If you're not swayed by any of their equipped gear, however, you can always challenge them for the contents of their pockets.
You basically treat them as Ouroboros.
If you lose the duel, don't worry. You don't need to give them an item. You aren't bound to Trathan tradition like they are. However, you are bound to Wraeclast tradition, so you'll just die.
Almost at me. Well, not really.
While playing in a party, each player can decide whether or not they want to participate in combat against the mercenary. For each player that opts in, the mercenary gets more difficult. But if they're defeated, each player has a 50% chance to get a random reward, which is usually currency items from the mercenary's pouch. Alternatively, party members that opt out of the fight can spectate and cheer you on. Or they might wish for your demise, so they can pick up that allocated divine waiting off screen.
Dead. Good.
Such a troll.
Let's say you won the duel, like their items, and have decided to hire them. What combat skills do they bring to the table?
This is great.
Each mercenary has an archetype. Here, this mercenary is an Eruptor, which perfectly couples with my slower, more aura-focused Scion.
Like, it's amazing.
This mercenary is highly aggressive, and will get a lot of benefit from the auras and buffs I provided.
But we get buff from them.
When I'm playing a more aggressive character myself though, I'll want a mercenary with a bit more resilience and utility. I've just run into a Striker, who can spawn with Vigilant Strike. And if you're lucky, a very rare golden support that causes the Fortify granted by his Vigilant Strike to apply to me as well.
He's also running Vitality.
He will also frequently use Enduring Cry, taunting enemies off of me, and operating as a tanky frontline while I blitz off damage from the back. Sometimes when you fight a mercenary, you may notice the skills they're using are different from normal. For example, this sniper is using a Trathan version of Siege Ballista. If you're lucky, you will be able to select it as your reward when challenging them. Then defeat them, and they'll drop the Trathan gem as promised.
That is wild. So yeah, new skill gems.
You can only have one mercenary accompanying you at a time, but up to 3 total in your service. The other 2 will wait patiently in town. Having varied options is useful, as there may be situations where you need specific backup, like a difficult boss fight. Any of your mercenaries you have active, or in your reserves, can have their equipment replaced with items of your choosing. They don't level up, so you will want to be looking out for more skilled and more powerful mercenaries as you advance through the campaign and endgame.
You're going to be giving them Kingmaker.
If your mercenary falls in combat, you will need to return to town and spend some gold on healing supplies to get them back on their feet. Then perhaps consider giving them some upgrades, if you think it's deserved. I just wanted to clarify, mercenaries do not lose their equipment when defeated.
They're an
If your
AG.
merc buddy consistently fails you, you can just dismiss them and find a new, more resilient ally.
Kingmaker's going to be insane this league.
You walk your path, I'll walk mine.
Earlier, I mentioned you could exile mercenaries. If you keep running into a mercenary archetype and you think, man, this guy stinks, their gear is trash and they have no auras, you can then choose to exile them. If you win the duel, they'll be forced to leave with their tail between their legs, and you won't encounter that archetype again for a while. Now, alongside these new Trathan arrivals, we shouldn't forget about the recent Kalgurin ones too. As we mentioned earlier, the Settlers update introduced gold-based respeccing of passive points. You can now do so by talking to a number of NPCs throughout Wraeclast, starting with Bestil and Lionized Watch. Black market item gambling, previously just available in Kingsmarch, is now available in each town at the same NPC. This lets you buy randomly generated item bases for gold. Very useful if you're stuck for upgrades, or searching for a specific unique.
It's pretty good.
The currency exchange will be returning too. Starting from Lioneye's Watch in Act 6, you'll be able to find Faustus, who can help facilitate these trades. Now, after almost a year of building, Johan is finally satisfied with the upgrades made to the town, and now its services can be used to their full effect. King's March is going core, but there will be no more town building. As you start running maps in the endgame, you'll start to find different ore veins, which Kalguran workers can mine for you. The shipping mechanic invites you to send these ores and crops to Karui and Kalguran ports, and they'll return rewards in kind. By sending shipments, you'll receive different items, but by sending to Karui ports, you will also receive tattoos, which can be used on your passive tree to change what stats they grant.
So guaranteed tattoos.
The Kalguran ports will be sending back rune grafts, which is a new passive tree mechanic that replaces the runesmithing service previously offered by the town. These are similar to tattoos, but instead of replacing stat nodes, they replace a passive tree mastery node.
It's pretty powerful.
For example, Runegraft of the Bound reduces bonuses gained from boots, but increases bonuses gained from gloves.
So ingenuity rolls.
Runegraft of the River has a chance to recover your life to full if you reach low life. And the Runegraft of Time, which has a chance for your cooldown skills to instantly recover from their cooldown, which I will note includes cooldowns on your triggers, just in case you wanted to trigger even more spells.
X as well.
There are many other Runegrafts which cover a wide range of different builds and stats. Some are more common and others rarer.
10%
You can only use one of a given type at a time, but you can use them on any mastery on your passive tree, which can be particularly useful for off-class investment. Isla has continued to make modifications to the Recombinator. She has developed a new method of recombination that you may recognize from Path of Exile 2. For those unfamiliar, this method allows you to decide which modifiers on the two input items you want to try merge together, and it has a success chance you can see.
That's great. I like
This
that.
method can result in the items being destroyed.
That's so
However,
OP.
it is a good option to use when trying to create items with fewer mods to use as crafting projects.
That's awesome.
Given the existing recombinating mechanic was very powerful for top-end crafting, we didn't want to remove it. We have kept it, and you can now choose to use it the old way or the new way. By letting fate decide, it will combine the two items randomly. There is no risk of destroying either item, but it will be less predictable.
That's going to be really good at min-maxing.
As Settlers is now a core mechanic, we've also added Atlas passive tree support. For example, if you wanted to gather more Verisium ore, you could take this notable. Each ore has a similar node. Refiner's Bargain converts items dropped by possessed monsters into thaumaturgic dust, sulfite into random ores, and life force into random crops. We've also added a set of Kalguran scarabs, so you can add more ore deposits, increase the rarity of monsters that guard ore deposits to at least magic, or gather smelted bars from ore you mark instead of ores. To sum it all up, King's March is now a thriving town where you can employ a swath of workers to collect resources, refine ores, craft items, and run maps for you. Send shipments of resources in exchange for tattoos and rune grafts, using those to modify your passive tree to an extent never seen before. Following on from that, we've also made a substantial rework to another important mechanic, Betrayal. As a refresher, and to explain to new players, let's briefly explain what Betrayal is.
This league's going to be huge.
Betrayal is a mechanic introduced in Act 9 and tells the story of Jun Ortoy and her investigation of the Immortal Syndicate. This is a mysterious group of exiles who can seemingly come back from death. You must help Jun to uncover their leader, the Syndicate Mastermind. The Immortal Syndicate is organized into 4 divisions: transportation, fortification, research, and intervention. As you encounter the Immortal Syndicate members, you'll gain intelligence for each of these divisions to discover the location of their leaders, tracking them to their safe houses. Defeating the division leaders at their safe houses will reward you with intelligence on the Syndicate Mastermind. In your journey to track down the Syndicate leader, you'll manipulate the members of the Immortal Syndicate to change divisions, form friendships and rivalries, and even banish them from the Syndicate for a time.
No, yeah, man.
Historically, after encountering and defeating the Syndicate Mastermind, the state of the Immortal Syndicate would reset, requiring you to start from the beginning of the investigation again. This has always been a difficult decision for players and can often feel bad. Do you fight the Mastermind for a chance at the special loot, or keep farming the safe houses that you've spent so long setting up? Well, in the Secrets of the Atlas expansion, we've split out the Mastermind to be completely separate from the core mechanic.
Ah.
The boss is now accessible through a new fragment that has a chance to drop from the safe house leaders at high levels. The Mastermind no longer resets the state of the Immortal Syndicate. You can now build your Betrayal board to your liking, optimize it, do Mastermind fights, and reap the rewards without having to lose all your progress every time.
So it's a more consistent mechanic.
The boss fight itself has also been improved, now with significantly fewer immunity phases and new rewards.
That's awesome.
By the way, if you're a new player to Path of Exile 1, don't worry about all this detail. This content is optional, and you can discover and engage with it at your own pace. The Mastermind still has a chance to drop a Veiled Orb, now renamed to Veiled Exalted Orb. Veiled Chaos Orbs are being re-added to other safe house leaders.
Hell yeah.
In addition, the Mastermind now drops the new All Flame Embers. All Flame Embers are map fragments that replace monster packs in in-game maps with different types of special monsters. These packs have unusual properties, compositions, or rewards.
There's so much in
For
this
example,
already.
you might use the All Flame Ember of Kulamak, which replaces packs with Syndicate monsters and their leaders, who revive after the map boss has been slain. This might at first sound annoying due to backtracking, but these monsters when revived are far more intense and rewarding. It is our intention with All Flames to provide many different types that combine with other mechanics, multiplying with your existing modifiers in new and interesting ways.
So much going on here.
Another good example of this is the All Flame Ember of Propagation. When slain, special rare monsters added by this All Flame here will spread their modifiers to other rare monsters in the map. This can be useful when trying to create singular, very powerful, and very rewarding monsters. Something akin to meat sacks, which are making a reinvented comeback with this update too.
Far out.
Another is the All Flame Ember of Resplendence, which adds monsters that drop no items. But when you slay them, you get buff stacks of increased quantity and rarity to enhance the drops of all other monsters.
I think so too, Slap.
All Flame Embers can be placed in your map device like scarabs, and used in conjunction with scarabs to further customize your maps. We're looking forward to seeing which combinations players find to enhance their maps. Perhaps you'll use all scarabs, all flames, or maybe mix and match. It's up to you. The Mastermind's unique items have also been improved. The veiled modifiers generated on these items are now from a custom pool exclusive to those uniques.
That's pretty wild.
Bitter Bind Point,
Oh,
for example,
shit.
can now have various Spectre-specific outcomes.
That's insanely
such as
strong.
+1 additional Spectre. Aside from improved rewards from the Mastermind, all the safe house rewards have also been rebalanced. We've done a
Holy
pass
jeez.
on the crafting sprees at the end of many safe houses. For those who aren't aware how these crafting sprees work, well,
Look at the
it's simple.
stats on that.
There's a crafting bench with an item in it and a bunch of currency. There's a limited amount of time, and your only objective is to craft the best item possible before the time ends. One of the problems that the crafting sprees have is that they often require you to have specific items on hand in order to best maximize your result. But how are you supposed to know that beforehand? In order to solve this, most of the crafting sprees now offer pre-generated items. This has also allowed us to add much more powerful crafting options in each spree. Let's take a look at a few examples. In this spree, a randomly generated amulet or ring will be waiting for you. Test your crafting skill or luck with this Reflecting Mist crafting spree,
They're also giving you
and
more
see if
time
you can create
too.
something worthy of Kalandra's praise. And in this spree, you will find a pre-generated unique item, and a new kind of orb that resembles a Valor, but not quite the same. Normally, you can only corrupt an item once, but uniques in this spree can be corrupted and re-corrupted as many times as there are orbs. This orb also allows you to get 2 corrupted implicits, and has a much lower
Oh!
chance to brick the item. It can be a very useful tool for seeking specific, corrupted implicit outcomes.
That is
Of course, if you push your
powerful.
luck, you can still ruin the item. There are also crafting sprees where you still need to provide an item,
I reckon.
but those items are generally more accessible and it occurs less frequently. This one allows you to bring your own normal rarity item, then just go ballistic with a whole ton of scouring orbs and orbs of chance, hoping to get your ideal unique. For most sprees, the rank of the syndicate member increases the amount of currency provided, the quality of the pre-generated items, and the time allowed to craft your item. Aside from the crafting sprees, there are other new options too. If you love gambling for currency, how about you try opening Varici's Emperor's Luck chests? These work just like the Emperor's Luck divination card and provide full stacks of currency. If you're lucky enough, unlike me, you could end up with a whole lot of divines. Betrayal is a good source of veiled items. Veiled items have some important quality of life improvements in this expansion too. All of the crafting bench options normally granted by unveiling items are instead now moved to the core game, so you don't need to run Betrayal to unlock them.
That's awesome.
They are instead found at the entrances to boss rooms and in-game maps. On top of that, you no longer need to speak to Jun to unveil items. You can just right-click them, or the equivalent on gamepad, and select which veiled modifier you want to unveil. Overall, Betrayal is now much more streamlined and more rewarding. Happy interrogations.
Shut up!
Yeah, this is insane. This
Now
is
before we get into our quality of life
total
additions,
remake
let's
of the
quickly
game.
talk about some character balance.
yes.
We will be doing our regular character balance changes where we are bringing outliers in line to help evolve the meta, but we are also focusing our attention on buffing some specific things. This includes spellcasting supports that specifically enhance self-casting builds, channeled spells, adding new options to the Guardian, Berserker, Elementalist, Saboteur, and Champion Ascendancy classes, which include some favorites from some of the alternate classes from Legacy of Freesia,
Oh!
and buffing a whole bunch of transfigured gems that never really hit the mark.
Yes!
Combined with the new in-game crafting,
That's
improved
fantastic.
Betrayal crafting options, rune graphs for your passive tree, new pinnacle unique items, new modifiers and Trathan gems from the
enormous.
Mercenaries, and of course the Mercenaries themselves to act as an extension to your character, it's safe to say there's a lot of new character options and builds to think about. Instead of delving into all of these in more detail, we figured we'd just let you absorb them through the patch notes so you can do it at your own pace. In the Secrets of the Atlas expansion, we've also added a lot of the quality of life features that we know you've all been asking for. A lot of these have already been posted, but let's take a look now in case you missed any. You can now pause the game at any time by pressing escape to open the menu, or by opening any full screen interface, like the passive tree. You'll also be paused if any lag is detected or if you disconnect. It's worth noting that in certain Pinnacle arenas, a debuff will be applied to you that prevents you from pausing. We're also making a change to how you use currency items on strongboxes and monsters imprisoned in essences. Based on the currency in your inventory and the state of the strongbox, these buttons will appear. Valuable currency like divine orbs have been excluded from this as it would often be wasteful to use in this context. The same applies to essences with the Remnant of Corruption currency.
So much better.
Orbs of Horizon have been updated. They can now reroll your Elder and Conqueror Guardian maps. Doing
That's
so will
awesome.
reroll the base map and the Guardian
It's
of
going to
that
make them actually worth more.
The map device now has a small additional inventory. This is particularly useful if you're rolling many maps to run in sequence, or if you want to use varying amounts of scarabs or other map fragments. During breach encounters, all the splinters will be automatically collected and dropped at the end of the breach. On gamepads, we have separated the targeting of monsters and non-monsters, so you are able to target them independently. This removes a bunch of frustration when you are trying to interact with objects in the world and monsters are nearby. You no longer have to kill all of them first. Vendor windows will now remember your last search. This is remembered until you log out and is remembered on a per NPC basis. The amount of characters you can type in the search field has also been increased. When using currency items, after right-clicking them, It will highlight all other items which that currency can be used on. There are many other quality of life improvements, so keep an eye on the patch notes after this livestream concludes. Alongside the launch of Secrets of the Atlas,
Patch notes
we are
after.
hosting a competitive event where players will race to be the first to kill the new pinnacle bosses. The event will take place in the hardcore, solo self-found Mercenaries of Wraeclast League. We have some interesting prizes in store for the winners. Keep an eye on the news in the lead up to launch for more details about how the event will work and what its prizes are. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new League supporter packs.
Of course.
Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Frisian Magistrate and Crypt Keeper packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. The Frisian Magistrate series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
Oh, that looks awesome.
The Frisian Magistrate character effect will bind your character in thorny vines and roses. You can select which parts of the character you want to have covered. Either your entire body, your lower body, or your upper body. As you approach waypoints, it will emit leaves and golden petals towards it. When activating the waypoint, it will create a burst around you. Envelop your weapon in thorny vines and golden flora with the Frisian Magistrate weapon effect. Your weapon will also create a trail to match as you swing, and even comes with its own hit effect when slaying enemies. You are the law while wearing the armor of the powerful Frisian Grand Magistrate.
Pretty cool.
The Spider Blossom pet activates its defense mechanism, disguising it as an elegant flower when near rare or unique enemies. The Frisian Imperial Magistrate back attachment comes in 2 forms. Equip either the Tombstone variant, which will leave tombstones in your honor when you meet your demise, or equip the Cape variant to cause the corpses of slain enemies to become enveloped in rose thorn vines and blossom with golden flowers. Keep track of how well, or poorly, your ultimatums with the Trial Master have gone with the Trials of Chaos hideout decoration. It will keep track of the total number of waves completed, the total number of ultimatums succeeded, or even failed. On top of that, it will track the total number of times you've defeated the Trial Master himself. The Crypt Keeper pack series also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
That looks insane.
With the Crypt Keeper finisher effect, death itself will tear through into the realm of the living and steal the soul of slain unique enemies.
I like that.
The Crypt Keeper portal effect creates a gateway for lost souls to pass through. Become the true master of the undead by wearing the hallowed Crypt Keeper armor set. It comes with a more armored helmet variant and a creepy mask with a spectral hood. Looking to have some fun during idle time in your hideout? The Burrowing Bramble Bash hideout decoration will test your reaction speed as you try to whack as many Devourer heads as possible in the shortest time. It also comes with a scoreboard, so you can try to set new records to show off to your friends or just visitors coming to trade. Equip yourself with the Ghostly Dead as you ride the line between the living and the dead with the Sacred Crypt Keeper back attachment. The Sacred Archives map device resembles a magical library with the works of scholars that come to life when you open a map. This map device tracks how many of each core league you've completed in in-game maps. These packs are now available for purchase on both PC and console, and will remain so during Path of Exile Mercenaries of Wraeclast.
It's just an insane.
Additionally, any
insane
microtransactions
expansion.
from the supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 2. Meanwhile, the Paladin and Penance packs leave the store forever at the launch of the Mercenaries of Wraeclast League, so now's your last chance to purchase them. Additionally, the Dawn of the Hunt mystery box will be made available for Path of Exile 1. If you have already unlocked any microtransactions from this box in Path of Exile 2, you will of course immediately have access to them in Path of Exile 1. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post the full patch notes for Path of Exile, Secrets of the Atlas. With release at the end of next week, Our community
Yeah,
team will be posting
next Friday-
crucial
next
information
Saturday.
you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to dueling mercenaries, fighting new pinnacle bosses in the endgame, and exploring the new crafting systems and character builds next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
That's not my internet. That's theirs.
Welcome back, Exiles, to another, I expect, very large Q&A covering all that we have to
Thanks for
cover
that,
for
man.
Secrets of the Atlas. I am, of course, joined by Jonathan and Mark. Welcome back, folks. Thanks for chatting with us once again.
Always great to have you over.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for being here as well.
Yeah.
That's it. There was a lot of, I think, pressure on this one for you guys. Like, it's been a long time since we've had a big Path of Exile 1 expansion.
Sure,
And,
for sure.
How did you guys
They need to
feel
fix
going
the
into this, and how do
stream.
you feel like you've been able to deliver?
I mean, honestly, I'm like pretty happy with where we're at.
The patch
Like, it
notes
isn't
are
a-
so big that
like,
they got
you
bandwidth issues.
No, it isn't a full year of development because, obviously PoE2 disrupted
Yeah.
things a bit. But the main thing is we're kind of back in action now. We've we've worked out the model for how the studio can function doing the stuff, and ultimately what it required is kind of like merging the teams back together, kind of having everything so that like everyone's able to work on both games, not necessarily simultaneously for a given person, but effectively, we need sort of our best people to be able to work on both games in order to really make sure that they're good. And so, that effectively means that merge sort of approach is definitely way better. And so now we've kind of got that, and now that we're back to sort of fixing deadlines again and everything like that, I think it will just go a lot smoother. And I'm pretty happy with effectively that we kind of got
I like that they have this slide set up. They're like, oh shit. Far out. It's like, stop streaming YouTube and torrenting in the other room, guys. There's a lot of Netflixing going on in that office. The Conquerors was pretty big, but I don't think any single expansion... We'll just turn that down for the moment. I don't think there's been any expansion in singularity that has ever been this enormous. Like, this is a monolithic size expansion at the end of the day. Like, yeah, the amount of build diversity that's going to come from this is going to be absolutely wild as well. Like, yeah. Yeah, they got to restart the stream. That sounds about right. But I might go through the patch notes after stream, to be honest with you. Heading to work a little bit.
We're no war.
to fight or you want to win?
Thanks for the sub, Fiddy. Yeah, well, they're adding in the Frisia skill points, right? So, like, yeah, there is that. What is this doing? That's not good. Is it? Yeah, I reckon. Like, whoever the IT guy over there is, they're just going to be like peeking right now, being like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. There we go, they're working again.
Hello, folks. We're back with some Q&A for the Secrets of the Atlas. We've got a nice big one. We're going to restart. We had a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we're ready to get into a nice big long Q&A session here. So I did ask the question that after nearly a year since the last major Path of Exile release, it feels like there's, a fair bit of pressure on this one to be something pretty major, but also to show that you guys still love and care about Path of Exile 1 and have a future for it.
For sure, yeah. So, as I was just saying, like I feel like we've kind of finally got our shit together as a studio now, as I said in the intro.
They put up
so we've sort of changed our approach. We've we've merged the development teams back together. We've kind of got everyone on one floor in the middle layer, like all the developers. And now we're kind of making it so that, we're effectively moving people, backwards and forwards from PoE 1 and 2 sort of as needed. And that's definitely a much better structure for us because it just means that we get, all our best people can work on, whatever game needs it right now. We've always worked well with kind of the fixed, in the past, sort of with the fixed deadline model where it's we have a fixed deadline, but if we, and what's in the patch depends on what's ready by the time we get there, and I think that's just going to result in a much better experience for players. And so now that we've kind of got that, I mean, this really represents what we can deliver sustainably, what we can deliver in 4 months, and so we'd expect to see this kind of amount of content every 4 months, as we go forward, and for PoE 1 and 2 as well. So now that things are back, I would say we're kind of back in our stride again. Things should go a lot smoother from now.
In sum, we're back.
That's not
we're so back.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we're back.
I did feel like that. I feel like the reception's been very positive so far, and I've been having a bit of a chance to play around with Mercenaries, which are exceeding my expectations in terms of how fun and powerful they are. I feel like you guys have made them really powerful too. So
we've honestly been talking about making a mercenary for probably 5 to 10 years. It's been one of those things that
you've been
keeps
telling me about
up.
it for years.
Yeah, exactly.
It came up with the PoE 2 Rogue Exiles, came up during Settlers League, I mean, that's just the recent, a year ago, within the last year stuff.
You guys baited me pretty hard because last league you put out this system where you have these exiles that you send out on maps, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna gear them and all this stuff, and it's like, oh, I can't wait, that's what I've always wanted. And then it wasn't that, and I'm like, oh, now you're never gonna do that because you did this instead. And then literally next league, you do the Mercenaries finally. So was it like waiting on something? Was there something that needed to happen there?
I guess it was more just a question of having a good design for how it could work. And, there was a couple of other things. One thing that wasn't really mentioned in the video very much is that the Mercenaries do count as half a player for the purposes of drops and monster difficulty. And so that's going to kind of change the calculus a little bit. You're effectively getting 9-player difficulty and loot, which there is some differences to the way that works now. But that's kind of one of those things that if we just added Mercenaries without doing something like that, then it would mean that the game would be too easy. So that's why we've kind of got that situation going on.
It means at best, if you're a more bad build, bad character, new player, whatever you want to call that. They're going to carry you probably, or could carry you. And at worst, if you're, the power of 10,000 gods and have infinite everything and screen coverage and DPS, then they're just boosting your loot, right? So there's a flaw there on either side that is just going to be beneficial to every single player. So
it sounds like absolute beautiful chaos, like 6-player party plus 6 Exile mercenaries.
Our initial design had it that you could have up to 6 players, or 1 player and, I guess 3 players and 3 mercenaries. It was like a mercenary takes a player slot is what we initially
That was
had.
the initial way to think about balance, but I think it wouldn't have been nearly as good because you want the mercenary to be part of your build to kind of feel like it's actually, because it comes with like auras and things like that. Like effectively that all becomes part of your build at that point. So it's kind of important that you don't have to sacrifice that when you're playing in a party with other people.
Didn't want to have the thing of like, okay, you join your 3 friends and then whose mercenary gets used.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
do I not get to have my guy now? And I don't get, So it's, we ended up getting away from that and just going, everyone bring the merc, and which results in peak chaos. But it's fun.
And I mean, you can also have an animate guardian, and you did tell me that there's changes for that as well.
Yes, of course you can have. In fact, I expect a lot of people to now have your 6-player party with your 6 mercenaries and everyone with them animate guardian, because I mean, how can you add mercenaries and then have a point to say that they don't drop loot when they die, and also not make the same change to animate guardian? However, if they do die in the instance, you can't bring them back. So at least there is still that penalty to having them be weak. So if they just die at the start, they're gone.
Yeah. Until you play another.
It's going to result in
a
lot more people using animate guardian in their build. But now you have to gear up your character, 1 animate guardian and 1 mercenary. So we'll multiple mercenaries technically. So we'll see how the itemization and trade economy goes in that regard. And
yeah, I mean that's kind of cool though. Is like having all that extra demand for gear and. That's I was certainly like thinking about how I want to keep some of this gear aside for like the potential mercenary I was trying to find and things like that. But that adds a lot to that. But I did want to, before we get stuck into some of the new content, just kind of like help ease people who maybe are a little bit worried about the future of Path of Exile just a little bit more. So this is what you hope to be able to deliver every 4 months, and you've got a much more strict kind of like approach to that now, where you were saying to me like, well, if this thing that you're talking about is not ready, then it's not going in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas before you would push the date, I felt.
Exactly, 100%. So we've been in the kind of push the date mindset, I would say, for like a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And in the past, we were never like that. We were way more strict with it. And I think it was definitely beneficial to do that. The issue was it was so hard to develop PoE 2 at the same time when we had all that stuff. So now that we're kind of like in the mode where we can support both with the release frequently, it means we can kind of go back to that model. And as I said, I think it'll just be way better.
I just want to make sure we are always going to be that whole like plus or minus 1 week flexibility, because you have things like
there might be like
holidays, conventions, clashes with things and all that. So obviously you get that just before we get held to the strict to the day 4-month thing. But yes, it is the goal. 100% you go back to that. I think there is it is very, very important that you have, as a player and a long-term player of a game, of which many of our players are, you have that consistency and you know what to expect, and you can be like, yes, I've played for my month, I've played for my 2 months, I know I can just stop for 2 or swap to the other game, do that, and then I can know it's going to be coming again in 2 months, instead of that just like
there for me again when I need it.
that like unknown is very sad, honestly, as a developer and as a player, and I certainly don't want to do that ever again.
I imagine it has a toll on the team in terms of them like knowing, because it's hard to make content, I imagine, and just not have it get shipped. Like, because it's the date's being pushed out.
It depends on the person. Some people kind of like actually prefer that more. Some people do really like the deadlines. It's honestly a variety.
Yeah, okay, bit of mixture. And you mentioned blending the teams together. That's like a big change, whereas before you were explicitly trying to separate them, and there was the question of like, well, there's problems with that, right?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, we had problems when they were blended originally, like years ago, where PoE 2 wasn't getting like it kind of wasn't working because that deadline was so far out that it kind of works. So we had to split the team to get PoE 2 shipped at that point. But now that we're back in, like releasing frequently, it just makes more sense to bring everyone back together again. And it keeps the expertise up and makes sure that, like the games are, there's just technical things like making sure that the engine is like in sync for both games and that kind of stuff. Like there's just so many elements that make it better to have everyone merged together, I think.
I imagine it helps with the cross-pollination between games. We just got pausing, which is
for sure
one of my most wanted quality of life improvements. That's a phenomenal announcement. But I certainly see people asking about things like WASD and stuff like that. And this support for the future is
unfortunately WASD just can't really happen because I say that, but there's the thing, right? So effectively, in order for WASD to happen, we would need to be able to change the rigs over to the PoE2 character rigs. In order for that to happen, we need to get all the micros ported over, and then we'd need to port all of the armors from PoE1 over to those rigs as well. So it would be a really long-term thing. Yeah. There might be a world one day where that can happen, but it's certainly a long process to get that to happen.
That's what I was kind of wondering is like, do you envision a situation where Path of Exile 1 is like warrants that sort of massive effort in a year or two or something like that?
Once we've got all the microtransactions ported, which we're doing anyway, then it wouldn't be like so bad. I mean, it would be a lot, but not like, not like completely unreasonable. So it's a thing that could happen, but it's a lot of effort to get that feature. So the main reason to do it isn't even for WSD. It's because we've been pretty unable to make new combat animations for PoE1 for so long due to all of the problems with the rigs. So if the main reason to do it would be that we can make like new actual melee skills properly again. That would be the reason. I mean, hopefully we can get to that. It's just it'll take a while though.
A lot of the skills you notice, and if people have been playing PoE1 for years, any of the new skills we add often just reuse the same animations.
Exactly.
And they're not exactly the most modern things in the world.
Not so much you can do with it now.
You don't get to do the cool custom flurries with like your swords and combos and all that kind of stuff, and I mean, you still obviously have Cyclone, where you just spin in a circle, and if you remove all the effects from that, you're literally just on a pivot doing this. It looks a little bit silly, but
but I mean, I am keen to do it though. Like it's just it'll take a while.
Yeah. It's I feel like I notice the kind of an increasing disparity between like the bosses in PoE1 kind of like pushing further ahead because you have a bit more freedom, I guess, to use more modern.
Well, the bosses are new, new content, right? So they get to just and the engine's the same, so you get to use all the modern tech for completely new content.
So they're looking like better and better and better, but the players are kind of staying a bit behind. So
don't need to rig anything to the bosses. They don't need to equip 10,000 microtransactions, thankfully.
So that's a unique challenge for you, but it seems like you've got a plan of kind of like how to approach it potentially.
Sure.
Yeah, all right. So while we're on this kind of like frank discussion, is like something that people often have been mentioning is this idea that like maybe they love Path of Exile 1, but they're not that interested in Path of Exile 2. And they maybe feel like their money when they buy a supporter pack for Path of Exile 1 is going to a company that's developing both games, and one of those being something that they're maybe not that interested in.
Right. Well, I mean, like ultimately, like now that we're kind of in the shared model, like it's kind of. It doesn't really, it's sort of hard for us to say, like, that like money goes to one particular team or another. Like, it doesn't really work like that because we're all merged. The main thing is just to understand is that when we're in PoE1 development mode, then PoE1 takes precedence and like any resource that it needs, like there's not going to be we can't do this because PoE2 needs it. And when we're in PoE2 development mode, it's like, it's the opposite of that, right? Where like we've got that sort of going on. So there's always going to be people working on each game, like all the time. But it's like, if one's going to come out soon, that one is getting all the attention. And so like every resource that PoE1 could possibly need for this expansion was moved to it, to make that happen.
Yeah, I got to see that firsthand walking around. It was like 95% of people working on PoE1 right now.
Right, in this moment, because it's in the last week. But but it's kind of variable. Like, I mean, if you look at things like I mean, you've probably got a better idea of the breakdown. But it's like how much of the VFX team was working on PoE1 versus 2 in like the last,
Yeah, the whole, all but 1 is currently on PoE, all but 2. I guess that doesn't really make sense. They don't know how many. So 80% of the team is on PoE1 right now.
Yeah. But it's kind of variable through the months.
But like, the dynamic thing is because obviously we had like 021 for PoE2 that we're working on, and like yesterday I moved some people onto that, quickly got some stuff across the line, literally 2 hours later moved them back, and like it's like pretty hyperactive,
right?
Like, but honestly, that's kind of how our leadership style is. We kind of just we're a little bit crazy.
But I also think that developing 021 at the same time is kind of proof that it's possible. Like to make sure that we can actually support both games at the same time.
I mean,
with the level of support we need. I mean, there's those videos even that were made by the like we're getting more people. It's like we can kind of manage it. So
I do feel like this is a positive upswing in that regard. Like it was definitely a bit of wavering there for a while, but I went from a 1-game studio to a 2-game studio.
One thing to note, and this is you say about the bosses going up and the characters, saying this, like that is also because we are, it is very, very, very useful in the same sense that certain game features get taken from one game to another. Like we see a lot of the quality of life stuff come to PoE1. Those bosses are animated or rigs from PoE 2 that we have like fully remodeled and reskinned. So you get to reuse that entire animation set. Sure, you got to tweak some stuff, but then like you can have one animation be 8 different skills if you put your mind to it and actually design the different outcomes.
Awesome.
So you end up with this thing where we're actually harvesting a lot of materials back from PoE 2 to 1. And this is how we're going to be able to get even more bosses, even more monsters, even more of that content just all the time. So
it's in ways where players can't tell, though. Like, it's really quite invisible.
You wouldn't... Some people might be able to see, wait, I feel like I've seen that before, maybe, but you'd have to look real close and be real into it.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, I know me saying it removes the allure of it, but, like, it is, like, ultra beneficial to be able to harvest all that art.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could look at it as, like, oh, that PoE 2 art is going on PoE 2. It's not. Like... All of that, I'm just constantly going, I'm going to take that, take that,
And the tech as well, of course, right? Like any new renderer features we're making, like all that stuff, you get to use it all.
So hopefully it's more of a positive thing. But I think to wrap it up, I think what it all really comes down to is people just want to know that they can feel confident that Path of Exile 1 has a future where you guys love it and giving it the attention that it deserves.
The next year is going to be the year of Path of Exile, 100%, right? I mean we're talking, every 4 months, both games? It's every 2 months, 6 releases.
6 releases a year.
Wild.
6 releases a year, that's going to be
If you guys can pull that off for a year, that's going to be wild. I'm looking forward to it. But, I mean, and to allay people's concerns, I guess, in that regard, is you were telling me that this expansion is like, this is part of a multi-season story arc that you're saying.
100%. Like, with, obviously, you... there's a whole bunch I can rant about here. But effectively, obviously you see Zana coming back. I know, spoiler, sorry, but it kind of was important.
Yep.
You got Zana coming back, and you've got, it's an additive storyline for now, and that was kind of on purpose because I wanted the end game to be still familiar. I wanted people, after coming back after almost a year, to still have the core of the end game be familiar, but have this additive layer on top that's cool and new and they can explore. And I didn't want to like completely rework all the mechanics, and people are like, I want PoE 1, finally a PoE 1 expansion. They come back and they're like, the hell is this end game? This isn't what I remember. This isn't what I was familiar with. So it was really important with this update to have a layer of familiarity across the board, and then like improved and reworked things and removing, obviously with Betrayal, we've removed a lot of the constraints and annoyance and all of that, but it's still mostly just additive stuff on top. Same with the end game. The League is obviously additive, the Mercenaries. So having that there, so there's that core Path of Exile 1 familiarity, was important for this one. But yes, it is like part 1 of a new arc of the end game storyline. Zana's back. We've got a whole new thing to explore. I'm not going to spoil too much of what exactly happens, but there's some cool shit in there. But effectively, it's like a way to think about it is we're now kind of we're going to, over obviously a relatively long time, have the era of the primordials kind of phase out and have the era of this new endgame phase in. And so, it's kind of set up for, right now it's an additive one. Maybe the next endgame one would be a bit more transformative, and then we'll go from there and just explore through this new storyline. So that'd be fun.
I can tell you're excited for like the future of PoE 1, which is, this is a good shift, I think. And you were saying you've even got like a good idea that for 326 that you really want to...
327, yes.
Oh, sorry, next one. Next one.
I do, yes. So, like, another thing with like this expansion, right, is like it's quite content heavy. When you do an in-game expansion in a league, it's a lot of content.
Yeah.
So, like, you have some things have to take priority, other things have to take less priority, and so like the character stuff where we've done a decent chunk of character balance and the new systems interact with all of that. There's clearly ones like, I know Settlers had like just the Giga Melee rebalance and rework, and it changed 100%. Like 1,000 systems in drastic ways and all of that. But again, I wanted this time more familiarity, and then 327, we're going to go just ballistic on the characters and do as much as we possibly can to like, amp that up, and I don't know, maybe fully revamp wand builds and create a whole new thing there. And now we have to because I said that. But, that kind of stuff. So, obviously you have ones that are more content-centric, ones that are more character balance-centric, and different focuses like that. So this one, content, in-game. We wanted our core players who have been playing for 10 years, the ones that are really looking for PoE, who are like mostly playing in the end game, to really have that like expansion and new boss fights. And
that was a discussion we had yesterday, actually, was this idea that you don't necessarily have to worry about new player onboarding as much for Path of Exile 1 now. But that's more the focus for PoE 2.
I would definitely say that, yeah, for PoE 1, it's like it's now very easy to just say, you know what, like if this isn't new player friendly, it's okay. Like we're making a game for the experienced PoE 1 players, so like we can just go ham with all that stuff.
Yeah, you can kind of go nuts with
you
it.
know, like if you're a new player, then PoE 2 is obviously going to be more appealing, you know, like I'd imagine they're more likely to want to go there. But of course, PoE 1's still, you know, like it's still a like we're not going to throw that away completely, but it's like certainly in terms of the focus of the content, like a lot more sort of end-game stuff, you know, the pinnacles obviously and things like that. Like this is stuff that appeals to someone who actually is able to get to that content. So you know, yeah. Of course, you've still got the leagues. You know, the Mercenaries. I think you were initially, when we first told you about it, you seemed a little bit like, oh yeah, I don't know how big that's going to be. But then when you actually played it, it's like, you know, it's quite a thing.
Yes, it was beyond what I expected playing it. Right. Because I brought up a concern after watching the reveals that I felt like there was a bit of a gap, some disparity in kind of what you revealed once I got the sense of like what was Secrets of Atlas versus Mercenaries of Wraeclast. I had some concerns. I was like, okay, so the Mercenaries thing seems like really awesome, and that kind of is like, by the time you get to endgame, you've kind of started to explore a lot of that. And, you know, there's still more progression beyond that, but that's like, it's not necessarily like a ton of new content for that mechanic beyond that. And then you've got this new Secrets of the Atlas system, which starts at tier 14. It's very endgame pinnacle content focus. So I'm like, it feels like there's kind of a gap there between tier 1 and 14. But you mentioned yesterday after that discussion that maybe you've changed it.
I initially was like, you know, people are coming back after a long time. They're going to come back, and yeah, some people have been playing, but like the majority of people haven't, and they're going to come back, get to that end game, and be like, all right, let's get my footing back, refigure things out. Obviously, Settlers is there, but I understand a lot of people have experienced that in the last year, so that's not going to feel too new, but there's a little bit going on there. You've obviously got Betrayal, and then yes, we have our whole like certain scarabs up, certain scarabs down kind of balance, which I will note, by the way, only a portion of which will be in the initial set of patch notes. We'll have more scarab changes coming soon.
Patch note expansions to be announced.
People who, ideally, our PoE 1 players know by now, we get a little bit feral and we just go to the end. We go till Friday of the release date for our balance changes, so not everything is there, but a lot of it is. You know, there's all those changes, and I thought, yeah, it's all good. What we'll do is aim for the people who really want new Pinnacle fights. Like, when we added the tier 17s, they were a bridge between Pinnacle and Uber Pinnacles. So they weren't even the kind of highest tier of difficulty in the game. And you could argue these aren't either because they're Pinnacles, but they are a step above the existing Pinnacles. They are a bit harder. That being said, of course, just to clarify, there is a quest version of them where it is you get to tier 14s and you will find them deterministically and get through all three of them. Just for the narrative, you get to explore all that. They're easier balance. And then you get into farm mode where you get the true rewards and the true, you know, difficulty test. But yeah, as you pointed out, I thought that'd be all right. And then you did raise your like, but what about between tier 1 and 14? It's not going to feel very new. And it was like,
yeah, where's the content?
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, we made some changes, of course, and as much as now in the live stream it says we're introducing it at high tier maps, that is where the story is introduced, so to speak. But we're now adding a bunch of trickled stuff beforehand, all the way from like tier 3 maps, where you're now you're finding those memory influence maps, or the influenced by the originator, as it said. You're getting the memory strand items, which are actually very useful for actually finding good item drops and crafting as you're going through the in game, and so you're getting that all the way through. And then, once you get to the higher tier maps is when you get into the actual Pinnacle storyline with the new 3 Pinnacle bosses. So yeah, I mean, look, straight up, it was just like what we thought was good oversight, but like, this is always what happens. I think even Jonathan mentioned earlier, is like often, when we have these podcasts and interviews, it's just like half the time we end up discussing stuff that we're then going to go and change the day after or the day of, and that's exactly what
I feel
we
like something always comes out of the Q&A. You usually do some sort of live development during these, which I love.
mean, there's so much that like to not and happening so rapidly and coming together very much, all together at the end. It's impossible to really have your eye on everything and not miss like some things. And we always often miss things, and then it goes live, and then we address it then as well, and stuff like that, right? It's just like very, very, very crazy. But again, that's I kind of think that's the magic to it, and what allows us to do so much in so little time. But it is also the thing as well that's going to result in the 6 expansions coming in the next year for the combined games. So
yeah. So now, like the state of it looks like veteran players are going to be exploring the mercenaries as they're leveling up. They're going to be going into the end game and kitting out, trying to find their ideal mercenaries, gearing them up, swapping them around, starting to interact with memory packs of enemies that drop memory influenced maps, that drop memory influenced items that they can craft. Which I'm excited about that as like a progression, the crafting system with the boosted craft. And that was, you mentioned like a way of kind of getting the tiering system into Path of Exile 1.
The initial idea there was like, how can we get the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 item drops from PoE 2 system into PoE 1? And it was like, well, you know, why don't we just do it in the new in-game system? And then we're like, well, we can have more granularity. It can go all the way from 1 to 100. There's not really much point not. And so you're finding better items. Like every time you pick up these items, it could have a set of full tier 1 modifiers. So that was the initial goal. And then, you know, it was like, well, may as well. Like the crafting orbs can just consume it as well. Now it's worth getting into that specifically. The basic crafting orbs all consume it. And right now, like, we don't have fossils and harvest and stuff do it, but it is our intention to implement that. But it's a bit scary. There's some OP there for sure, but I really like all those systems interacting and interweaving.
Please.
Now, what we're finding right now is that you actually do that crafting first, then you consume the memory strands for like the final exalts and final applications. And that is something that is happening internally, and you're getting some pretty insane outcomes there to guarantee like a T1 mod on your final exalts and stuff like that. But yeah, if we were to do it the other way around, you'd probably end up having it be very much using all those systems. So before we turn that on, obviously we're going to review every single thing and make sure we're definitely happy with everything, because it is a very complicated web of craziness. But
Actually, that was a question I was wanting to ask, was like, how do you even make new crafting systems for PoE1 at this point? Like with all the various intricate, do you just kind of like make it and
you just
cross
have
your
to,
fingers?
you just have to effectively just take the chance and just come up with what you can do, because, you know, if you worried about literally everything, you'd never make anything, you know. So you have to on some level.
But it's the same with uniques. It's the same with new character systems. There's so many variables that you kind of just like, here's a thing.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, exactly.
That's kind of broken. Great.
It's fun though. It's just fun.
So you've got this progression system now, which sounds phenomenal. That sounds like a really nice improvement to like, while we're exploring the various changes you've done to things like the massive overhaul to Betrayal, for example, and like the new scarabs, those new systems, the integration of like the previous content core. And then you get to tier 14, and then it's like new story kicks in with the Secrets of the Atlas, the memory system, and that uses the kind of like the idea of those memory threads.
Yeah, we had what was memories before.
Yeah.
So that was like, there was Alva's memory and all of that, and they had kind of different things. You couldn't juice them, but some of them gave pretty specific rewards, and a bunch of them were worth absolutely nothing.
The lack of juicing kind of meant that they didn't really have a good place in the end game, though.
Yeah, there was only a couple that were worthwhile.
We were like, we didn't really give that system justice, so like, let's kind of use that as the baseline for the new memory threads, except we 100% allow full juicing.
Yep.
And make them more unique, have the alter mods at the end of each run, and then have the new influence mechanic. And then what we did is we took all those memories, and we were like, I think it was Octavian actually who suggested it, was like,
good job,
put all those on Kirak. And so all the Kirak missions that can now be offered, since Kirak also couldn't be juiced, Kirak missions now can give you all of the things that appeared on those memories before, which gives him a unique thing that he didn't have before as well, and it can be more valued farming that. So 2 birds, 1 stone.
Some love. That's
good suggestion.
Thanks, Octavian.
And but yeah, effectively those, and then we're like, you know, those memory strands, we don't want it to just be, I'm doing normal mapping, then you find the memory, I've already tripped up now, and it's this thing we were talking about yesterday with all the terminology.
Memory threads versus memory strands.
The memory threads, again, once you're playing, it's a bit more clear, but we've got a bit of synonym thesaurus issues going on. You're doing the memory threads, and it's like, well, we want to be able to do that experience without just having to go, okay, I don't want to have to run a bunch of maps, get a thread, have some fun, and then, I'm back to just, regular things. So we're like, well, once you finish the storyline, I won't explain exactly how that concludes, because it's a big one. What those maps that you can find on that thread now will start dropping but it's T16s.
Yep.
And more frequency, and then but they will be rolling with Tier 17 mod pool, and we're kind of calling those T16.5s because they are very close to T17s, and it's kind of honestly, I would say in some cases, if you get the right memory skills, better than T17s.
Good.
Which I know has been a huge concern,
Yep.
and I agree with that, and I am finally, hopefully, we can not have just the age of T17s that can't self-sustain and you have to trade for, and a lot of frustration there. That's the
Excellent.
That's the hope. If it doesn't fully solve it, obviously it's still the intention to.
Well,
so we will.
Well, let's talk about the
elaborate.
problem with Tier 17s then. So, like, obviously, there's a few issues going on there. It seems like that you had this like very varied endgame, tons of different maps and everything, and then kind of narrow that down to 4 maps instead. And obviously, it was presenting problems for build diversity as well.
It was also a clash because it was like those were meant to be the bossing way to get to the Ubers.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the juicing. And so then you have you have a kind of economy clash between people who want to farm bosses and people who want to juice. And it was like, okay, well, they were intended to be the boss way. Whoops. But they were still kind of fun for both axes, in some regard, minus a few little bits and pieces. Like, obviously, we had to do some changes to the mods, how they generated. Like, we certainly had some hiccups with that one the first time around. But it was then all of a sudden now T16s are dead,
Yeah.
So the hope here, bring them back. You can farm the map you want as with the originator influence on it, I believe is what the text said, or what I call memory influence or Zana influence. All of these things, whatever. They're influenced with a bunch of red and blue stuff. You get the pedals, you get the skills, but you get the div card you want, you get to farm the layout you want, you get to do the boss you want, and you don't have to deal with,
Can you say somewhat definitively if like juicing is going to be happening in Tier 16s again, or is it still going to be Tier 17s a bit? Not sure.
Currently, as far as I can tell, it should be in the 16s, but I didn't want to make it that the 17s are just garbage.
Yeah.
So
you haven't taken a hard stance on it.
I think, especially with the right memory influence skills appearing, which you do have to take a bit of a gamble for, and sometimes you get really good ones and sometimes you get okay ones. That's part of the fun when you get it and you're like, oh, yes, I got the epic one that revives monsters and I get all the loot twice. And then when you get that kind of thing, it's going to be like, okay, this is just 100% better. Like, how was it not? And then, of course, multiply that with all the All Flames and, there's going to be some madness occurring. Not Necropolis tier madness, but there will be madness. We have learnt from that a bit. Don't you worry about that. That was out of control on a level unprecedented. But still new tiers of madness.
There's a question from chat about Atlas passive skill tree and with it expanding, like with all these new things being added to it. Is that something you consider as to like how many points you end up getting and those decisions like between things?
I like the amount of points you get and the amount you can invest in a given tree loadout. I think that is correct.
Still feels right.
Like we do remove a little bit of nodes and we have added some, but I wouldn't we've added new ways to juice via the influence. We've added new ways to add more things to the All Flames and stuff like that. And there's new multiplicative things going on there. I wouldn't also then want to just be like, here's another plus 20% on the tree as well. I think that choice matters. I like that choice matters. And I think you should have to give up something to get something of the new thing, or have one of your loadouts focus on that and two of the others focus on something else. So
something else that sounds like it's going to help is you mentioned to me this idea that you might be getting more access to the content from the investment nodes that you're taking anyway via Scarabs, right? Scarab drops.
Yeah, true. I mean, it was more of a SSF feature, but it will work for everyone. But both the map device where you play like Breach League and a bunch of the nodes on the Atlas tree that are like, chance to have breaches in your maps, both also now increase the chance of you getting Scarabs of that league's type. Which is kind of how PoE2 did it as well with their leagues, where
Play the content to get the content.
Get expedition to get more expeditions.
Great.
It's the same thing here. We just wanted to push that a bit more, give a little bit more agency, and influence the Scarabs you're getting. That way, you're getting more of the ones you want, because there are a lot of Scarabs, of course, and you can block a decent chunk of them, and you can invest in some others. And we're just like, more agency is better here, like straight up. So may as well, and it just simply adds more value to the map device craft. So why not?
All right. I know we're jumping around topics a lot here, but let's just kind of be in the flow of things. But on the mercenary topic, so you've designed these guys to be so good that everyone's going to want to use one, right? And that's like the right way to design it objectively. But it does raise the question as to you need to make sure that they're not abrasive to use, that they're fun to use, that there's not necessarily problems where you feel like, oh, I have to use them. So how do you go about making sure that that's the case for these guys?
I mean, obviously them increasing the difficulty, is a thing that says maybe you don't want to necessarily, maybe they're not pulling their weight on a boss fight, and stuff like that, making it actually harder because of the
or
life.
If you don't have the right mercenary,
or if you don't have the right mercenary, you don't have the right gear on them. These are factors. However, generally they should be fun to have with you. You should want to engage with it. That is the League. If you're not playing in the League, or you don't want to engage with the League as much, you still got the end game, you still got Betrayal, you still got, the settlers, all that stuff is all still there, the character balance changes, everything's still there. It's just, ideally you'd want to engage with the mercenaries. They are generally more beneficial than not. You would have to really over-level them and not be upgrading them for them to start being kind of useless.
But the item and combat mechanic with them by itself is also, even if you're not hiring a mercenary, there's still, there's a source of items there. There's new things like mechanics that they've got going on with that. So, even that part is a thing in itself.
Well, something I didn't realize from watching it and then even playing for a while was that, and I think the UI is getting improved by launch for this, but when they have the currency pocket, when you don't actually pick a currency from that, they give you all the currency from that window.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so. It was a bit juicier than I thought it was, actually. It kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah. Why not? But it was interesting creating a, there's not many leagues where you get one reward.
Yeah.
And obviously not the currency pouch, but you
pick a item.
Picking a single piece of gear.
Yep.
And so we had to really think okay, I mean, you can see it, so you already get a pick from all the different slots. But it was how do we make sure that their gear is comparable to what a player would have, which is kind of you're identifying many and picking the best, and you're crafting a thing, and so it's always better than average. And so we had to really think about what their gear should and what their items should look like, to be comparable to something you would actually want or have. So yeah, it's rare to have a league where you actually only just get one item. Even Ultimatum, sure, you get one and many rounds in a row, so you still get up to 10, whereas this is just actually one.
So you have to make sure it's good, right?
Yeah, and that was actually kind of complicated to do, but there's some pretty powerful stuff you can get from that. I mean, obviously the uniques are relatively easy to put in, but they do affect the mercenaries in some pretty crazy ways. But the rare items and stuff like that, it was a little bit complicated to actually get that to feel good, such that you feel like, I actually want to take that, as opposed to just always taking the currency. But if you want to do that, go ahead as well.
Was there any kind of, just out of curiosity, was there any kind of thought on as to what sort of items or what sort of mods they roll on their items then? Since they're they are kind of specific builds.
Yeah, kind of. It is relative to the build more so, yes. Yeah. There are 30 something different archetypes. So we talked about the Striker, and I can't remember the names of Eruptor and stuff, but there are 30 something of them, and there's a Chaos Mage, and there's ones with curses, and ones with auras, and ones with I'm obviously listing all the utility stuff because I know that it's the aura bots of Trathus really is probably how a lot of people are going to see it.
Exactly how I see it.
But actually, there's a lot of custom skills in there. They're not entirely player skills.
Yeah,
I know we touched on the Trathus skills, but we only showed this. I feel there's maybe around 16 of them. Some of them
and
are
you can
cool.
get those, right?
They can just be in their little pouch. And you can
just take one.
You can pick them, and if you defeat them, they drop it, and you get it. And that's a new. So it's kind of like a transfigured gem in a way, but it's a Trathan gem, and it's just so that's a way of delivering a bunch of new skills. And I know you have Blood Storm Call, which is physical that creates a blood dot. So you maybe want to add, so there might be some builds that want to do that. There's new spectral shield throws and a whole bunch of different things. We saw the Siege Ballista in the live stream, but there's certainly a whole bunch of them. I know there's a kind of incinerate based blast ray. Blast rain was it? Yeah, arrow comes down, does a wave of almost an incinerate wave out of it and stuff like that. So
that's some fun with that.
Spoiling a bunch of them, but it's only 4 or so. But yeah, there's heaps of different skills there, which is pretty cool. But then they also just have kind of high cooldown and different passive skills and stuff like that as well. So there's a lot of stuff.
Should have put more of those in the video, honestly.
Yeah, possibly. Probably. Yeah. There's going to be some surprise and cool stuff for people to find. It was a 42-minute presentation. It's all right. Give a taste. Let people find a lot of cool stuff on live. So,
in terms of making them fun to manage and hire and things like that, if you'd asked me before playing it, I would have said oh yeah, you want to be able to like spend some sort of passives on them or something like that. But then actually after playing it, I was like, oh, it's kind of good that you didn't go to that level, because then there's no lock-in with them. You can change between them easily.
Would have been a bit annoying, I think.
Yeah, and a bit too much tedious upkeep.
Low micromanagement on this. So like doing the gear, but you won't have to do that too often. They don't level up. They don't have like they have a passive tree behind the scenes. You just don't get to see it or engage with it.
I wasn't actually sure. Was that implementers actually allocating individual nodes?
No, they have a Trath and passive tree.
Okay.
Secret proprietary.
Yeah. I mean, they gain stats as they level up, and it's kind of relative to the archetype, and there's some stuff going on. But you don't need to care about that. It's just as far as you know, they're higher level. They've made somewhat intelligent decisions about their passive points and whatnot. And they're pretty good. Of course, some are better than others. Some will be good for your build. Much like you will have, here's the meta ascendancies for a league. Probably each meta ascendancy then has the meta mercenary for the league, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it'll be matched to your builds,
it's going to be pretty crazy, I suspect, in the end. There's like, as much as it's pretty simple to just arrange them, there's going to be a lot of little minor complexities.
There's poor path of building, guys.
I was going to say, like, are they going to have to implement some interesting...
They're definitely going to be a part of your build, so it's got to go in there. Yeah,
100%.
They can give you auras and various other buffing skills. I had a Templar that had like an aura, and he had the smite with the lightning aura.
Your meta build, then for that you need your 3 meta mercenaries, and then your meta animate guardian, and then you've got oh my god, too many. I mean, at least a lot more items will be getting put to use, so that's good.
I'll be curious to see how the Animate Guardian feels, because, I don't know, like, that one has obviously the skill gem cost as well, potentially, like, supports and things like that.
Yeah, of course. But,
so that's obviously a bit more of a tax, whereas these guys are just a free add-on on top. They don't cost you anything except gold.
I mean, gold.
Yeah, gold. Which was, you intentionally didn't go for an upkeep cost for them, which I noted.
Yeah, I mean, you already earned their... You still got to pay them a little bit, but you defeated them. You don't need to pay them by the hour anymore.
There's a gold cost if they die, which I found I had a couple die early on, but then they were mostly, especially if I picked good ones, they were staying alive. Like I had one guy that was ridiculously tanky, and then some of them had like 4k life, and this guy had like vitality and enduring cry and kind of like a fizz aura and immortal call and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are kind of better than me.
That's true. Often you might find yourself aspiring to become more like your mercenary.
Yes.
But look, these are trained fighters from a ruthless place in Trathus, and they've come here, and they're like, "What are all you weaklings doing?" And so,
it was quite confronting when I was like doing my usual running through mud flats with my ranger in a Hessian sackcloth clothing, and then I run into literally the ranger one. And they're like wearing, Giga MTXs, and they got like all these different supported skills, and they're like comboing them together. And I'm like, what?
It's giving you something to aspire to.
Yes.
This is what I can become. Whoops.
I felt really good when I fired them later.
Yeah, look, remember they came here of their own choice. They haven't been exiled here as a criminal left to rot on a beach.
I have to say, they kind of feel like suckers. So they've got this honor code system, right, that says that if a challenger comes and challenges them, they have to wager literally one of the pieces of clothing they're wearing of the challenger's choosing, and the challenger doesn't have to put up anything. Like, you don't have to wager anything of yourself. Like, I feel like in a previous Path of Exile, we might have you're like, oh yeah, you have to gamble your item.
But if you remove the game mechanic from the equation and you go, okay, let's say you and I have a duel and I get to take your shoes, and my sacrifice is I have to die. I don't think that's a fair trade. Now,
but this isn't a world where you can revive.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Okay, fair enough. Good
and
point.
honestly, if I have to go your shoes versus my 15% experience, I don't know if I'm gonna.
Pretty nice boots.
Yeah, sure, but that's part of my level I just lost. So I don't know if I'll take that trade.
Yeah, well, you got me there. That's a good point. We'll get some more questions about the mercenaries there. Do mercenaries count as minions? Has been asked.
Oh, I said 15%, and I realised that is not correct.
Oh, what was the...
I'm just making up numbers. No. Ignore me. I know that's the wrong number.
No. What have you done? That's going to be quoted.
I just quickly glanced at chat, and I'm like, oh, geez, I said I just made something up on the spot in the heat of the moment. Don't worry about me.
The question was, do mercenaries count as minions for the purpose of various minion-based things? Like flask.
They don't
minions?
count as a semantic minion for like, minion damage and all of that. But I know, for example, all the, how there's bosses and they have certain skills because they're less avoidable. They deal less damage to your minions.
Oh, yeah.
They also they also get that damage reduction from those things because like they're not like going, there's an AoE here, I'm getting out of it, and they're going to jump back in like you are. They're just going to soak the damage, and so we've made it so obviously they don't take as much damage from those unavoidable attacks, so to speak, and much like how your minions do and whatnot. But again, they are pretty tanky, so on top of that.
On that same spirit of like live improvements happening as we're talking about, it's like yesterday I was asking kind of can you heal them with like the minion flasks or something like that to like heal them in between combats, and later I got a message saying that you guys have changed it so that they heal out of combat now.
Yeah, it was taken from the it's something I actually really like that the minions do in PoE 2, where when there's some downtime they kind of regenerate back to full life. So that change was made yesterday actually, and
that's good.
Yeah, so now the mercenary, you don't have that thing where you have to give it some life regen, and like explored a few different options, but it was just like, what, just like if there's a little bit of downtime, or it's more if they haven't lost life in the last some amount of time, they just whoop back to full life. So
love it. It's just good quality of life. Yeah,
you don't just have them sitting at 10% life, and you're like, what am I supposed to do here?
So they can be brought into pinnacle content is one of the other questions I'm saying.
Anywhere, everywhere in the game.
No restrictions on that.
Yep.
Nice.
Delve,
cool.
That means.
And people seemingly from the question, based on the questions, don't believe that you can have like a 6-person party and have 6 mercenaries. That you wouldn't allow that. That's too crazy. I mean, it is too crazy, but you do allow that, right?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
That's the thing. Okay.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of auras. But I'm very much looking forward to playing my. Everyone knows I play my support characters, and you'd expect, you're a support character, so you can get a DPS merc now and not have to play with your friends. But I'm thinking, well, hold on, I can be a support character and have a support mercenary and support my friends even more. So like, it's all win.
That sounds about you. Perfect. I mean, while leveling, I certainly felt like the DPS ones were viable if I was playing more of a supported role, or if I was like struggling in that regard. They did seem like they were actually able to kill things. Is that something that can happen in an endgame though? Like that seems hard to believe.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can give them Headhunter, you can give them all of that stuff, and they take the damage, they scale it. Like insane. The only thing they don't have is, your skill, which could be bad, and thus they could be better than you, or you could be very good, and in which case, I'm just saying, like they are still a computer. Right, they are still at the end of the day doing that, so they might not make the smartest decisions that you agree with.
There's like custom AI for each skill.
There is 100%.
So they're a bit above the 50% high of players.
They might be. I'd say around 55% just percentile average.
Better than half you.
Computers can be good. So, but at the end of the day, when you're like, giga zooming and obliterating everything before it can even appear on your screen entirely. There's a question of how much use can they really be, and that's where I come in and say, look, the floor is still they're half a party member worth of loot increase, and they are, whatever auras and all of that. So you might pivot from more. You definitely want like DPS ones are real good all the way through, but once you again become the power of 1,000 gods, like
there's a certain point where
there's only so much you can do. Now that being said, if you do want to play a more passive character and you want them to just go wild, like they're pretty strong. There is, of course, the thing where if you miscalculate that, you go into your pinnacle relying on them to kill it, and you miss the mark and they die. It's not like you're bringing them back in that area.
They only have one portal.
Now you're like, oh, damn it. I'm not sure what to do now, and you've got to do it the hard way. So, but yes, much like the new Change the Animate Guardian, if they die, they don't come back into that area.
Sounds like a good way of doing it.
Sequential instances,
Much better than the losing gear and all that, all that drama.
We went through all that. I even had the maybe in Ruthless they should lose an item, or maybe I was like, is that a thing? I was like, oh, no, look, it's either right or wrong. Let's just go with what we know is right, what people will like, and what is not going to just cause a bunch of unnecessary. Oh my god! Now I got to do this again, and something unpredictable happens, or some monster skill is like particularly imbalanced, and it's like, oh my god, it just lost so much currency, so all good.
Sounds great. Awesome. Settlers Town went core. We didn't have to rebuild it. Phenomenal. Thank you. Gold goes core, which obviously is an experiment feels like a success then. Jonathan, I think you feel like you can speak to that.
I mean, sure.
Gold was a core feature of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy with where gold, with how gold improves things. I mean, we originally did it as a way to reduce the number of things that monsters can drop while still having it so that they feel like they drop things.
Yeah, like culling the
But I mean, I honestly I think it's been a straight up improvement, and obviously it's really good to be able to work with the the new the trade the currency market and stuff like that. Like, I think that stuff, I don't know that there'd be another way to do that as successfully as the way that works. I think that's worked well. And it's funny because on the surface, you're like, oh, every game's got gold. But the funny thing about it is that in most games, gold is a lot of games have like bound items, and then gold is the only thing you can trade. In our game, you've got unbound items, and gold is the only thing you can't trade, and that's why it sort of works as that kind of trading kind of thing. So I think the way we've done it, it works well, and I definitely want to keep it. It's got a definite place for sure, and we may be able to expand its use as well more in the future potentially. Like right now, it's not used for shops or anything like that. It's used for gambling, but it's not used for the regular shops. And there were some issues around that, but we might change that one day. Sort of hard to say, but I think it's definitely it's good.
Yeah. Okay. And that means obviously currency exchange is staying core and things like that. It looks like shipments were staying core, and that's one that I see is like mixed opinions on. Some people love it. It's passive income, and but it's also like an obligation. It's a thing you got to check in on. It's a busy work to an extent.
We did some changes here, so we did slow down. We made them take longer, and proportionally, in some cases, increase the rewards. The intention there being, of course, that way you have to deal with it less.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the focus of the league anymore. We don't want it to be overtaking what you're doing all the time.
Yeah. And look, I expect these things to be a bit divisive, 100%. Some people love it, some people don't. And that's great. That's everything in PoE, and that's everything we add. And you can choose to do it. You can choose not to do it. Maybe you choose to just do the crops and do the shipments and not worry about all the other stuff to do with it. Maybe you just use the map runners and put all of your gold investment into that. There will be other ways to spend gold in the future. Maybe because you don't want to deal with them, you build up an excess, and then all of a sudden we add the gambling strongbox from PoE 2 or something like that to sink the rest.
Yes,
who knows?
dude.
Yeah, we'll see.
Dude, it's so good.
It's a fun strongbox, but
That is a good one.
that will come to PoE 1, I promise you.
100%.
So, there'll be ways to do it, but we'll feel it out and see how much gold people are getting relative to losing as well a bit, and then see. But the intention here is that if it's feeling annoying and how much you have to deal with it, then we've missed the mark, and we'll probably even adjust things a bit further as well.
Okay, yeah.
But again, like everything, it's up to you, your agency, your choice.
You touched on an interesting point, because I feel like before it wasn't optional because it was there and it was free stuff. So why wouldn't you do it? But now you're actually, both in terms of gold, but also your passive application, are you actually even investing in having those ores appear versus something else? So it's not necessarily just like a free thing on top that you're obligated to do. It's now a more conscious decision.
I could see it feeling mandatory, and if it does feel mandatory, then we miss the mark a little bit for sure.
You want to avoid that.
I don't want it to feel so mandatory, but that being said, I also wouldn't want it to feel so terrible that you never want to engage with it. So there's always a fine line to hit. And
there's stuff you can only get from there, so there's always going to be that
element.
Yeah,
for sure. If you want to get the tattoos and rune grafts, and some of those rune grafts, a lot of them are like pretty crazy off-build stuff, and there's a good set of chase ones in there, and there's some pretty crazy stuff in there to get, but I think it's a better system. I like the idea that now Settlers is giving two different passive tree mechanics that can coexist as the rewards, aside from obviously recombinating and map running and stuff, but as opposed to just the freaking insane enchants that you were getting on your weapons
so
before.
The enchants are gone then. This replaces that, which I think most
they
people expected.
They were a little bit much on the power creep axis. It was kind of just a bit crazy, but I wouldn't say that we won't see some sort of weapon enchant system back in the future.
Yeah.
And we're a bit more regulated and stuff like that. But
weapon trees come
there's
back.
room for that. There's design space for that. But we never know what form. But I like that Settlers is where you go to get your alternate passive tree stuff. I think for changing masteries and changing nodes, I like that as the the reward from it.
was a pretty funny reveal of the live reveal of the recombination changes because everyone was like, "Oh no, you did it! You got rid of the old one and replaced it with this." But then obviously the old one's still there.
We're here seeing all of the L's, and then I'm like, "Don't worry, they'll come back. They'll come back. It's all right."
It was very entertaining from our perspective.
That's all right. And then it also says L's www saved. I love it. I pretty thoroughly enjoy watching chat. Yeah.
So you kept the old version of recombination. Is that changed or nerfed in any way, or is that just as it was?
The old way, I can't speak to that with an absolute certainty, and I would have to talk to, one of the main designers dealing with that. But I say like we should pretty much keep it the same.
Yep.
And if there is a change, it needs to be like very much justified. It's not like
Yeah.
People like it for a reason. Like keeping it alongside the other one and then gutting it is obviously not not the play. You may as well have not kept it at that point. So yeah, it was certainly the intention that we keep it. It's still a favorite. Like if anything, I would be okay with making things more expensive. So it's a little bit harder to use at the top end when you're doing like the very. I think that is maybe the thing we concluded when you're interacting with a lot of the really special modifiers that you normally can't get on items. We're making it a bit more expensive. But I don't think that was a huge constraint anyway.
Not
unless
a barrier
you were
for the people doing it usually.
Sure. So, I would prefer to do something like that instead of nerfing the power of it at this point. And I'm like 99% sure we didn't nerf the actual functionality of it. But I'll verify, and if it is the case, I will let the community know afterwards.
Okay. On the topic of gold, an ongoing thing has been that gold is very present from the core Atlas mechanics and certain things, but other things just literally don't drop it. You do Blight or whatever and you just don't get gold, or, Sanctum just doesn't get gold. That's obviously a separate topic, but is this something that has been normalized across the game? Do you want players to be in a position where they can't use it?
We are making some adjustments. So like when we did that, obviously we went through the entire game, of which there is a lot, and specifically we're like, do this, too much gold, lower, and we had penalties and increases all over the place, and a bunch of stuff was too low. Some stuff is, and I wouldn't say it's too high. It was actually probably relatively nice mostly. There was just a bunch of stuff that's just dead. And it is our intention for that to not be the case. So we do want to increase those. I don't know how much they'll necessarily increase by, but it is something that is on our radar 100%. So
okay, great. Because
Heist is a good example.
I think the most compelling argument I heard in favor of like making sure that those had access to gold was for the player who wanted to focus on just that. They just wanted to heist.
100%.
They can't currency exchange, right? That's the biggest problem.
100%. It isn't. It is just like let's say it is already a relatively divisive league, and then also the gold sucks. It's easy to perceive that as dead. So it look, there are some things where we maybe make an intentional decision because they are like too rewarding to be like it's not a place you're going to get a lot of gold, Sanctum, and then when we're like okay, which we'll make some changes too. But then you have the things like Heist, where I would say it isn't that regard, and it's just like why is the gold bad here? And it's like look, we just missed the mark. So
well, I guess since we brought it up, the Anti-Sanctum Alliance has been constantly messaging me, asking about whether Sanctum's going to see any changes in terms of just kind of how much raw currency it prints early league for like a low investment for like really knowledgeable players, giving them such a massive advantage over less ones. Obviously, that's always the case, but it seems to a severe magnitude.
I don't have the exact changes because they're literally we're like going to do them today or Monday. But like. Which I know seems crazy. So they're not like massive grand rework, but at least for now, we're certainly going to give it less of the edge it has. I don't exactly know what form, but it's not going to have. It's not just going to be untouched.
Thank you.
In terms of like a grander future, like I would like to shift away from it just being pure regular currency and move into something where it has its own item and own reward mechanic that has some sort of interaction with something. Like almost every league has something special, and that one is just like obviously it's got a relic meta system, but it's just like here's some uniques, here's a different style of gameplay, but just like here's all the currency. So then it becomes very quantifiably better or worse than just like core game. And obviously very, very early, it's very strong. And then, maybe juicing catches up, but then, it obviously gets a little bit crazy. In different axes, you get a lot more uniques, a lot more different things. But it's still, it's just that there's very easily quantifiable thing where it's like a very good strategy if you know what you're doing, especially very early on, as you're saying. But it needs its own thing. it 100% needs its own thing. So, but at least for now, it doesn't have to be as good as it is for how easy it is to do so. So we'll make some changes. I just don't know the exact specifics. And as a result, they won't be in the patch notes today. It will be in another coming soon section because it is. Yes.
Great.
I mean, again, I'm not. Why would we not stop? Why would we stop developing now? We have another
week before. It's like, what are we going to do? Sit around and twiddle your thumbs? Exactly. Sounds good. With the like big changes to Betrayal, which look phenomenal, that's obviously like a big overhaul for that, and something that was really long awaited. It does kind of make me want to ask, like, do you have like another one that you're really looking forward to giving a similar treatment? I hear a lot of feedback about like quality of life around Bestiary, for example, being not where people want it.
That is on our radar. There's I know for like itemizing beasts and improving the quality of life there is a little bit annoying. Maybe more than a little bit. But like talking about like the Sanctum reward as an example. There's some others, like I'd love to give, Blight a bit of an overhaul. I'd love to, do something with Delve. It's just all those, there's probably more that once I actually look at the full list, I'll be like, here's some obvious ones. But look, these things fall out of popularity. They fall out of favor. They get outdated. They become old, like
legacy of a decade.
It's what happens. But the good thing is, much like with Betrayal, we circle back and give it a whole fresh coat of paint. New rewards, new systems, new interactions, step forward the storyline and evolve it into a mini sequel sometimes as an option. There's all these kinds of things that are completely things we could do. So like, purely hypothetical. Maybe you're now later on, you're just delving and oh my god, there were the 3 cities and now there's a 4th city with a 4th boss.
That'd
and
be awesome.
What is this thing I'm fighting?
100% confirmed.
Again, now because I've hypotheticals have to become reality.
100% confirmed. Also, just like the Blight overhaul coming next week. And in my mind, you didn't even say it, but like temples are getting reworked. And I was like, you didn't even say it, but I said that in my mind and now it's true. So I'll hold you to that.
Cannot confirm nor deny.
Phenomenal. Some rapid fire quality of life things to kind of follow on from the Bestiary mention. We have like the ID all things in your inventory from PoE2. Love it. Would love to see it in Path of Exile 1. Any reason why it couldn't be a thing or wouldn't be a thing?
What?
Do you hate it? Do you hate my hands?
I can't remember what.
Control click at an NPC and
it's on my list. It's still on my list. It's okay. I had my here's all the quality of life stuff. It was like there was a section where it's like to discuss later again, and I put it in that, and I actually genuinely cannot remember why it wasn't just immediately and obviously doable.
Yeah, it seems like the thing if you want to do, you'd be like, yes, do it. So I assumed something up.
There was one thing that was like blocking me from just being like, 100% just do it. I just can't remember what it was, but it's a thing we can get around and make happen for sure. But like, yes, the being able to go to town and ID all was very useful, and IDOT as well was an extreme upgrade that I liked. So,
well, tell me who whatever dev is working on that, I'll go make them lunch or something so they can focus.
I'll take you to them afterwards. But you have to now, because if I'm going to be held to things I'm saying, you're going to now buy them lunch. So,
okay, I'll see what I can do. Some of the older bosses with phases, Chimera is the one that stands out to me. Is like
immunity phases.
Yeah, just like really long immunity phases. In Chimera. They feel quite dated at this point.
Katarina got the same treatment. Where it's just like, oh, okay, like maybe like 40 immunity phases is just a bit much. It's not. I don't know what the number was. It wasn't that, but like it was just a bit much. But yeah, a lot of those are going to need a bit of overhaul as well. It's hard to justify going back and spending a lot of time on that, but there's sometimes a very easy things we can do, because instead of doing that, we could just be making a brand new boss that's like way more epic, way more fun, and fits into a more modern and core thing. Whereas like some of those are just like very high end game, get some fragments. It's one boss of 4 that then gets to a pinnacle, and like you want your pinnacles to be good. You certainly want your end of line bosses like Katarina to be good, and that having as many immunity phases as it was just doesn't hold up now. Like I would say it didn't even really hold up then either. It just again it takes you to really back out of the new stuff and go back and look at the thing to go, what is actually wrong with this, and look through everything and go, there's actually more bad here than I thought. And then you go through and fix it all and change it all and revamp it all and do it again X years later.
Yeah. it's been a while since we talked about this, but with a discussion about gold and the currency exchange, I feel like it's worth revisiting. Just like, how do you feel the ye old trade manifesto holds up from way back in the day? Like now, in light of,
I would say that the currency exchange, like, kind of definitely shows that there's it's not like we didn't know there wasn't demand for instant trade, right? But the currency exchange definitely helped things a lot. And I know that we still want to do more stuff. Like, I've kind of talked a little bit before about how there's other things we want to do, and I still think we want to do it. The main thing is that, like, the gold allows us to make it so that there can be a cost that isn't the cost of having to do the actual trade with individual other people. And so I do think there is a world where we can go to where we can have a different system. We'll probably prototype that in PoE 2 first, I reckon, where we still don't have a permanent standard economy that, in PoE 2 we've got an economy that will exist forever, but that's not going to be standard, right? Because that'll be the early access economy that will stick around. So we've still got an opportunity here to completely damage the economy without while being able to recover from it.
I know from my perspective, when the currency exchange came out, I was like, after we played, and it was such a relief of friction that I was like,
you were like, this is all we ever need.
Maybe this is enough. And then now after, and obviously then it started coming back a little bit. Then playing 020 on PoE 2, and then going and trying to trade for more items, I was like, I'm reminded of all the frustrations. I'm like, we definitely need more than just the currency exchange. So I would say we scoped it out. We wanted to see if it was better enough, and then I was just like getting beyond angry trying to trade, and I'm like, why is the whole server AFK?
I think it might have been worse in PoE 2 because of more new players.
So what I found in PoE 2, a fun little trade thing, is when I first started, people didn't know, go to, you invite them, they come to your hideout.
Basic etiquette
and I'm like,
stuff.
Are you coming? What's going on? And then they're sitting in Act 2 town, just like waiting for me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. No one knows that you just go to your hideout. That's a new thing to have to learn.
Oh, and it's shifted as well, like weird new kind of like things of like culture things have grown out of that, just like kind of independently from different like new people versus pre-existing PoE players, and it's become a strange little thing.
Real fun to watch, eh?
It's an interesting little social experiment thing going on, isn't there? But I think I think what you've touched on there is that it does just kind of raise the question of like, where should the friction be? The friction being in gold feels really good, I think.
That is exactly the thing
UX.
that we would prefer, right? The thing that's going to be the question is that if gold is the only friction, it still needs to be that the cost of it is enough. So the thing that the trade manifesto talks about basically is you get this issue with you don't get it with currency. So doing it for currency is actually fine because currency, it acts as a sink. It is currency, so it's okay to have like fluid trade for that. When you start getting into items, then you start to have that issue where the stuff at the top is worth like astronomical amounts, and the stuff at the bottom is worth nothing. And like any trade will cause that, but the easier trade is, the more you get that. So you've kind of got this like, if trade it was very hard, you get like a flat line. You turns into more of an exponential growth curve as you as trade becomes easier and easier. So effectively, you just have to make sure that we're hitting the right point. And what I worry about, and this is one of the things as well, if we first do something like this, we're probably going to have to price the gold cost pretty high as a starting point, and then kind of maybe back it off as we see like what the effect is, because if gold is the only barrier, then you're going to see that kind of issue.
Well, gold's like a direct kind of translation of your like play time / play quality, your efficiency to that trade capacity.
So the fact that it works that way, where it's effectively character like bound to you, effectively means that we can use it this way, and that's kind of the difference between us and other games. So I think it will work, but it's like, we're just going to be very careful. 100%.
Because I 100% get like the concern about it, because this is about like what you're actually putting on your character and circumventing whether you actually do any gameplay for that. But this makes it so that you are doing gameplay for that, and it's an alternate method.
So we have to be careful, especially in the early game, where if you can just get something that some high level player just doesn't care about anymore, so they sell for nothing, but it costs you, but it still has to cost you something. Effectively costs, it sort of needs to cost you something. So we just have to make sure we're getting that right. So when we do it, it'll we're gonna have to be very careful around that stuff for sure.
Even if it was just kind of like,
it's always got to be a negative.
Realistically, do a couple items a day, then it's not your bulk trading kind of method.
Can be,
it exists alongside the existing one or something like that. That could be a prototype for it. So it seems like it feels possible now, whereas before it was like a no way never. That's crazy.
It is possible now for sure. It is possible.
Which is I'm excited to see what you do to experiment with that. Mark seems keen.
Won't be too far away, I think.
Bloody
but,
AFK people.
As I said, I'm pretty sure we're gonna. I'm
He's
pretty sure we're gonna prototype it in PoE 2 first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where we've got a bit more leeway there.
Like you said, I mean that shows a bit of like a love and sanctity to Path of Exile 1 there for the people maybe concerned that you don't care about it.
Right.
So
I guess so. Yeah.
And just one more note: and all you people who are listing items,
here he goes, rant time.
and then you're not even AFK. You're in a map, and you're just not replying.
Don't list it for that price if you don't want to sell it.
Please
Stop it.
Please. Or actually, no, you're going to keep going now because then you're going to have more drive to get this new system implemented. So, yeah, it backfires, but whatever.
There is that. Make trade as bad as possible to motivate you guys.
No, we're not having some accelerationist concept here. That's terrible.
And that is the note that we'll wrap up the Q&A on today. Thank you very much, folks, for hanging out with us. And thank you, Jonathan and Mark, for answering our questions today. I look forward to playing more of Secrets of the Atlas and Mercenaries of Wraeclast.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone has fun. And we're back.
Yeah,
we're so back. We're so back. So back. See you later, guys.
See you later.
All right, there we go. Well, anyway, tomorrow I'll be doing a series of videos, basically like patch notes run through. I'm going to read through the patch notes after this, just in between the day, and get my head around everything. Build curations will be coming out, and we'll be doing a Delve starter guide. We are so back. And I have a series of other videos here that I've sort of put together in the background. So yeah, anyway, over the next few days, you'll see like an absolute shitload of videos come out on the channel. Just breaking down everything, going through all the mechanics and all that. So yeah, feel free to tune in. We might do we'll be doing the level testing for the Sunder build as well. So each night I'll be logging in. It's going to be PoE 1 for a little bit, or for a while, I'd say. But yeah, so there'll be a build, like a league starter guide that I'll probably put out next week once I've got my head around that. But yeah, so yeah, there's going to be a fair few videos. Anyway, so yeah, don't forget to play and enjoy my... Yeah, I'm pretty keen to be making PoE 1 content again, to be honest with you. I don't mind PoE 2, but PoE 1 just feels like a better game, and coming back to it and playing it. I'm gonna have it on my other monitor and look at it while I'm in between work. Anyway, so yeah, we'll go through that in the morning. I've got to spend time with the significant other tonight, so